Victor, you'll not steal it.
Okay, it's 1:30. It's 1:30, so let's get going. Mr. Mecklin, do you have anything to share before we begin?
I do, Mayor. I'm going to ask that the council consider amending the agenda that you have for the work session portion of today. And that would be to add an item at the end after public comment, which would be an executive session. It's one of the items that's listed on the agenda for tonight in the meeting as an executive session. I think there's actually 3 items listed for tonight, and I'd like to move one of those to an executive session after the conclusion of the work session today, be for the purpose of meeting with legal counsel to discuss matters pursuant to the attorney-client privilege.
Okay, so one of the 3 items
Yep.
that would be on the executive session for this evening will be the one we'll do at the end of the work session.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right,
I'm sorry, do we have a motion on that?
We don't do motions in it.
Yeah.
I don't think we do
I don't
motions
think
in
you have- I
it.
think we can just do it administratively here, because this is a work session, and we're not actually,
voting.
you're not even adopting an agenda for here today.
Okay.
Just as long as we're all clear that we're moving one of the items from tonight to the end of this.
Okay. As long as we're good, I'm good.
Okay, so we'll go right into item number 1, governing body mental health crisis unit intergovernmental agreement for FY 2024.
Yeah, and I did not realize that I was presenting on this, but I think you've been given the copy of the proposed agreement, and it is a mirror image of what the agreement was for FY 2023. You're just having to renew that agreement.
Does anybody have any questions, concerns in regard to the mental health intergovernmental agreement?
That doesn't show up on our agenda here. Why was that not put on?
It's on here. It's on the civic clerk.
It's on the one for tonight.
Huh? No, it's on the work session agenda on civic clerk.
Well, I'm looking at work session, it doesn't have it on it for number 1.
Oh, there are no
It
attachments.
has the title on it, but it doesn't have the agreement.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, no agreement.
If it doesn't, and now that I think about it, the city of Carrollton was supposed to prepare that, and I don't think it has been prepared, so you can just take that off for tonight.
Okay, so we won't put that on consent agenda because we don't have the agreement, and we'll
Right.
go ahead and make
Correct.
sure that goes to tonight. Okay. All right, item number 2, nomination of 2024 GMA District 4 officers. Tom Barber presents that.
Each year at this time, we get a slate of proposed officers for District 4. This is like each of the other years that I've been here, and you've got a recommendation for 4 officers, I believe, for the coming year.
Any questions? It looks like President, they're recommending William W. Pearson from Sonoy. First Vice President, Barbie Crockett from Central Hatchie. Second Vice President, Joseph Walter from Zebulon. And third Vice President, Mike Johnson. That's one of our local people out of Temple, mayor out of Temple. Anybody dissent with that? Because if you're good with it, we'll just go ahead and put it on consent agenda, that we're good with the slate they presented.
Good for me.
Okay, that'll be consent item number 1. Next item, appointment of Ward 3 Planning and Zoning Commissioner, Councilwoman Stephanie Warmoth, that's Ward 3.
I just go ahead and make the motion, correct?
Let me, I'm just opening up here, I'm looking at the name Andrew Newton. Okay. Yeah, you can just make a motion or say, this is who I'm recommending, and then, well, we're not voting.
No, you
We're not
just
going to make a
You're just going to
motion.
announce who it will be
Yeah.
tonight, and You're not going to vote on it?
Yeah, we can't vote, so it can't be a consent item. But if you want to say anything about it, or just that
So
that's who
this,
you're
we'll
recommending.
just make the motion tonight, correct? Okay.
We can put it on
You can put it
consent.
on the
We've done that
consent
before.
agenda, I guess, but it's not actually a motion made, but just say who it's going to be and you can stick it
Oh,
on the
okay.
consent.
I mean, there was just a motion on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, so are they coming? Is there anything where they'd want to be here for when this happens? Are y'all good with consent agenda on that one? You're good with it?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I'm good with making it a consent.
Okay, all righty. That's what we'll do then. All right, move to B, community development, special use permit for scholarship event held by Georgia Food Industry at Mirror Lake Gold Club and this requires a public hearing. So give us a brief presentation, and we have to come back to this tonight.
Yes, ma'am. The Georgia Food Industry Association Education Foundation, which is a mouthful, hosts a golf tournament at Mirror Lake every year. This is an application for them to have a one-day pouring license or pouring permit to serve beer and wine. They will set up the day prior and then shut down that event the day after. So the day that you would allow them to pour would be April 24th. It's from 7:30 to 3:30. The applicant will be here tonight to, answer any questions that may come up.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions from anyone? This has to go to tonight because of the hearing? Okay, all right, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Item 2, rezoning from commercial medium density C2 to industrial low density I-1 for property located at the southeast corner of Highway 61 and Wentworth Road. Also requires a public hearing, and this is a revisit from last month, so all of us are a little bit familiar with it already.
Yes, ma'am. So
Sean,
we
thank
actually
you.
talked to Mr. Baxter about this a couple weeks ago, and he is asking if he can table for next month's agenda.
We will need to do that tonight because we're actually making a decision with it, and it requires a hearing anyway. In this case, we won't do it, it'll be withdrawn. Okay, good, so some people can know. All righty,
But not withdrawn though, but tabled. So, right, it's a request to table, not withdraw the application.
Yes, it's not a withdrawal, it's a table.
Okay.
okay,
Well, that's
so,
because that was going to be my question, because I've heard so many different things about this in the community, so I didn't know what the current status was. I mean, there was a report on WLBB this morning apparently about that they found a new buyer or something. So, yeah, a lot of conflicting information out there.
yeah,
So he's asking to table it for another month, that's what he's asking?
Correct.
Okay.
yeah, did everyone get the email that I sent out sometime last week from Carol Tomorrow that gave us a little bit more information on this? No, as far as if there's a new buyer or development, that I don't know. Just that we were informed that the aluminum company was going elsewhere. But there was still, at this point, they were still seeking to rezone. We just don't know what for
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
specifically. Okay, thank you. All right, item number 3 under B, special exception request, place of worship at 505 Berry Drive. Also requires a public hearing.
So yes, the applicant, Rodney Rogers, is actually proposing to have a place of worship on a local road, but our City of Villa Rica ordinances state that only a place of worship can actually be located on a arterial road, a wider road with more volume. The proposed use is actually used to be the Serve Pro for, actually was a Serve Pro, but the proposed place of worship is actually going to be using not the whole square footage of the Serve Pro, but actually only 6,500 square feet of, only the office space of the Serve Pro. Now, the property is zoned commercial low density C1, and it's just south of Interstate I-20, and it is close to that corner of Daniel Road. And the staff is recommending that City Council approve the variance request, but we do have some conditions applying with that. And our conditions is actually that the applicant will be required to apply annually to renewal of the special exception permit from the council. And this renewal process will ensure adherence to the parking space stipulations and a maximum occupancy limit of 360 individuals at one time. Additionally, the applicant must provide a minimum of 85 parking spaces in the property in accordance with the zoning ordinance section 7.4, which states that places of worship must provide one space per 4 fixed seats.
Okay, so in a nutshell, because we know we have churches that are in shopping centers, the difference is most of them are on main arterial roads, like out on 78 and elsewhere. And with this one, what we're making sure of is that there's adequate parking based on the size and number of people in there. I was over there the other day. The whole thing is vacant. I guess since ServPro, it doesn't look like anything's in there right now. But, okay, any questions from council?
I have a question for David. Oh, I'm sorry. I think Anna had her hand up.
Oh, yeah, I just had a question. I don't know if this is relevant, but did they rent or buy the building?
They are renting the space.
Okay.
For, I think, approximately 3 years.
Okay, so you said they're not using the warehouse space, so somebody else could theoretically come in and use the warehouse space.
To my knowledge, that is correct.
Okay, I was just wondering about that.
My question for David was, I know and previously we've had some, whenever we had a church come forward for a zoning or a special exception or something, we had considerations of the RLUIPA federal statute. So I just wanted to make sure that if, we were making sure tonight that we're prepared that we don't fall any pitfalls in violation of that. Because I don't know this, I'm not too familiar with that statute myself, but I know it's a consideration, so.
Well, I would say if you approve it, you've got no problems.
Okay.
If you turn it down, there might be some issues, but,
Okay.
We'll just have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? And y'all, I know with the way the dais is straight here, lift your hand up high and I'll do my best. And if somebody else sees it before I do, just, call it, because I don't want to miss y'all when you're down on the edge there. Okay, so this requires a hearing, so we'll come back to that tonight. Item number 4, VA-02-24, J&M Tank Lines Gravel Variance in Public Hearing.
Yes. So Jeff Aldridge and J&M Tank Lines is actually proposing to have a gravel lot inside that medium density industrial I-2 area. It's kind of in the corner parcel right next to Highway 61. And we actually have some previous tenants actually try to acquire and actually build something on that land. However, these aren't really pertaining to the variance of the gravel, but actually pertaining to something of truck stops. Now, the applicant is proposing to install a gravel lot in lieu of the Villa Rica Ordinance, Chapter 7.02, and which states that all lots must be regulated to have a hard, dust-free surface. Now, the applicant is citing concerns that the property does have a considerable high water table and the potential of impact of the asphalt surface due to the awareness of the water table can actually cause a significant amount of maintenance over time. And after careful analysis and consideration, the staff does recommend that the council deny the variance based off of conflicts with the city's ordinance and long potential maintenance challenges, as well as a variance request that is potentially economic in nature and self-imposed.
I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And one of them was, I just wanted to make sure we were fair to everybody that comes in and does this, because I'm not, from reading the packet, I'm not entirely clear on, here's the drawing, here's exactly where the gravel would be, and here's where we're going to have, concrete. Over at East West Express, there was an exception made for them to have a particular area that was gravel, while there was also concrete areas. One of their arguments had to do with asphalt, did it not? That it would not hold up under the heavy weight of the trucks and some sort of issue with that.
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess my question is, I know we've done this before with the gravel, and I want to make sure we don't say, oh, well, you can do it, so that we get ourselves in some sort of trouble where we allowed somebody to do something that we're telling somebody else. We've got to have an argument for why we're saying yes to one and no to someone else, but also the height of the water table. Now, this is, I don't know that any of us has expertise in that area, but I can't understand that when it's higher, you have an issue with how quickly whatever's on the surface is getting to that, because it purifies as it goes through the ground. And that's part of the sales, I guess, for the one over at East West Express, was that it was permeable, that it was going to be better than having all the storm water running off. And Bobby shared that. So whatever information we can get on, what's the risk with the high water table, what did we do at the other place, how is this different, to help us know how to make a good decision on this. That's kind of where, with my notes, that's where I am. I don't know what else everybody else may have.
No, your recollection, I think, is what I recall as well about the impervious surface. Basically, gravel is not an impervious surface, so it basically allows the ground to take in the water versus running off into the storm drains, et cetera. That's what I recall Bobby saying, something to that effect, so.
But if it's a high water table, does that mean it's getting more quickly into our drinking water compared to if it has more time to drain? I'm just looking for some guidance from staff, and I don't care if by tonight, let's see, we got to have a hearing anyway. If by tonight we even get any additional information, because Bobby seemed to be knowledgeable, I don't know if we have anybody else on staff that can also give some input. Tom, do you have some knowledge in this area that could help us know how this differentiates from the other one?
No, but we did tell them that we had made this exception for East-West, and so that will be part of their presentation, I'm sure.
Okay. Anything else at this point?
I actually did talk to Bobby a little bit before I came over here, and by his knowledge, he's saying that that particular parcel has an extremely high water table, and such that we've actually had some tenants actually want to purchase that lot. But I believe a couple years ago it was proposed to be a filling station, but they actually had to leave because due to the high water table, they were actually supposed to have underground tanks, like fueling tanks, and they were very, very worried about with the water actually coming down and going through the land, that it can somehow raise those giant tanks up and could actually penetrate the concrete.
Okay. Well, if there's any more information to be gathered before tonight, but we'll also hear from the applicant and hear their presentation. I just want to make sure we hear both sides. Okay, thank you, Sean. Next item, lucky you, I think. Do you have this one too? Don't go away. TA-01-25, text amendment, maximum parking and layout for, and this also will require a public hearing.
Yes, ma'am. Staff is actually trying to remove the maximum parking restriction specifically for sections 7.02 subsection 4C, 7.02 subsection 26A, the second item of 7.04 subsection 6C, and 9.04 subsection 4. With all these particular I would say regulations, that the city is actually going by a very exponential growth in economic development. So this is actually the forefront of that proposal. And by eliminating these limitations, we do inspire to nurture and adapt actually for various businesses to actually come in. And then we are actually focusing on the greater flexibility for parking regulations, allowing us to cater to a more diverse and foster dynamic, accessible communities. I would say that we do believe by lifting this undue constraints imposed by the parking limitations, that we encourage the establishment of various businesses, ultimately enhancing the overall economic landscape of the city of Villa Rica as a whole.
Yes. I have a quick question. So, for clarification, do most of these, would these be more effective like downtown having parking, or, because because I'm trying to make it make sense in my mind, and I'm probably kind of rambling a little bit, but like downtown, I can understand there not being a maximum parking area, but when you get out to maybe Mirror Lake or out to where, like we were talking about the house of worship earlier, I could understand where it might be a little more feasible to have. So is this for a particular area? Is this more residential? Is this more commercial? Or is this just city-wide?
It wouldn't particularly be for the historic district on account of we will have actually a separate HPC, the Historical Preservation Committee will actually vote on some things of that matter. Now, it does for the rest of the city limits, like Mirror Lake, it would actually fall under those areas.
With that being said, so for instance, like the new shopping center, there would be no maximum parking spaces?
And that will actually be the thought, yes, ma'am.
So, like, one of the issues with the current one is there's not enough parking spaces for the people so now we're reducing them, that they're gonna, so there's no maximum, so they can have even less in a bigger area?
From our standpoint, that it will actually have, we will actually release the constraints of it. So if, let's say, we actually have the Mirror Lake Tanner, actually the medical center that's right off of Mirror Lake, they're actually trying to have a variance because they're actually obtaining the lot across the street from that Mirror Lake area.
Okay.
Just because they're actually growing so much that they're actually getting more volume of patients at one time, and then the employees and the staff is actually concerned that they won't have any parking. I mean, they're already parking in the back, so then this will actually just alleviate that for various businesses that are actually coming in for the future.
Okay. That's what I was curious. Okay, I was trying to get to that. Thank you.
Tom, did you want to add? Looked like you were getting ready to. Okay, all right, so, yes.
Sean, so I guess I'm glad you brought Tanner up because I'm pretty sure when I first looked at my packet, there was information about here that it was perhaps Tanner was what prompted this request.
Yes, sir.
And so my question to you is, why do we decide to do a text amendment that changes the ordinance for the entire city instead of just entertaining a request from that particular property owner for a variance or a special exception?
Yes, sir. I would have to say that in the standpoint of just Tanner's is one example of it. I mean, since the city of Villa Rica is actually growing so much that we can actually have other, like, just saying any examples that we can potentially have a wholesale department store actually come in here and they acquire a larger volume of parking. So that can actually alleviate where we don't have to come in and you all have to vote on something of that magnitude for them to have some certain amount of parking.
So then I think it leads me to two other things.
Yes, sir.
Pretty much in every kind of planners forum that I'm involved in or exposed to, they're trying to move away from parking requirements and making it, or we're actually having less parking. And I know it's a little bit different when when you're downtown Villa Rica versus when you're on the outskirts of Mirror Lake, outskirts of Villa Rica, but part of Villa Rica, Mirror Lake, or down 61 in my ward. But I just kind of feel like it's odd that it feels like the trend nationwide is we're moving towards less parking, more pedestrian, more focused on, instead of having these seas of parking lots like we do at Walmart that go unoccupied for much of the year, with the exception of Black Friday and the Christmas season. They just sit there, and those are all things, that's a place for future development that we're reserving for parking spaces. So I just kind of find it odd that we're making that move where everyone else is going one way, we appear to be going a different way. And then in the other situation is, I think what you brought up is that one of the issues that we dealt with on that South Street rezoning, which I believe it was in November, was that it did not appear to have an ordinance, appropriate ordinance for this kind of planned shopping center that you raised there a moment ago. And so again, I kind of feel like instead of making a carte blanche blanket removal of maximum parking and making that kind of text amendment, we should be focusing on preparing an ordinance that includes a maximum parking that's appropriate for a planned shopping center concept, which appears to be kind of the other issue here. I mean, that's just my view, but I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
Yes, sir. Actually, being a planner, this does go against a lot of my teachers and stuff like that with actually going against this. But, I mean, the city of Villa Rica, we're actually very vehicle dependent. I mean, we don't have
Right.
any bus stations as of yet. We don't have any social transportation. So I would say, starting out for right now, I think that will actually be it'll be a improvement for certain companies and it actually coming in for the time. Now, we could have some type of condition to actually raise that, but I don't have that prepared for the council meeting or the work session as of for right now.
Well, I mean, if we couldn't really do it, I don't know. I can't say we couldn't do it, but I mean, it'd be kind of odd to have a condition that's tied into a text amendment because it'd be like a condition that applies to
The entire text.
the entire
Yeah,
city,
yeah.
right?
Yes, sir.
So I think, I don't know. I just kind of have issues with this because I feel like we're going the opposite direction, and that I mean, look, when I'm sitting in the Ingalls parking lot and I look at that area, that's the GDOT reserved area plus some of that parking that's never used on the edge of the Ingalls parking lot. I think, you could put 2 or 3 more out parcels right here. We could have more additional restaurants here, but yet it's being used for parking. And I get that the Publix at Mirror Lake, I mean, that's probably where, like, they really needed more parking there.
You have to park in the bank. There used
Right.
to be a bank that's
But
now the
for
dental
But for the
place.
majority of retail developments in our city, that Publix accepted, we have unused parking just sitting out there, just pavement, and
Hang on to that, Matt. Hang
Yeah.
on. Tracy, this is your department. Do you have anything else to add? Because I know y'all work together on that department. Do you have anything else to add that would give us more understanding? Because I'm about to chime in with Matt here on what we see visually in Villa Rica and you see it in Carrollton too, asphalt, asphalt, asphalt in these giant old shopping centers that were built decades ago. Obviously, Publix doesn't have that issue. But anyway,
Right, so
yes, sir.
we've got in that ordinance, it also talks about how many spaces that you have to have in front of the building versus on the side and whatnot. Well, that does not work in most cases with any shopping center. You're not going to be able to put 50% of your parking on the side of a major retailer. It's just, it works nowhere that I know of. That's one of the considerations in it. And then we have a lot of things. Just take the proposed Whataburger that's coming up. Well, if you've ever been to one, you know there's never enough parking, right? There's never enough parking. But our regulations are going to require them to cut 5 of their parking spaces out of that restaurant chain. And so that's even going to make where they're going to park out on the street, whatnot, all these things. So that's the big consideration in all of this, is that we're making designers and engineers really design buildings that are not functionable,
Yeah.
And so I think that needs a lot of work on it. So we were trying to get rid of that burden to the developers and whatnot that's coming in.
Okay, so who actually proposed this change? This proposal came from someone on staff. Okay, city
Yeah.
manager. All right, so I get the whole 50% behind and all that, because I read through all that, and I get how that could get really complicated. So what is if we can understand our end goal, what is our end goal and what's our priorities? Our end goal is that it doesn't have to come to us all the time for
that's
these little
exactly
minor
right.
changes. It
Right.
just drags it out for them. It makes your life harder with more work on the same thing. Can we do something administratively that allows us enough flexibility? Because I also agree that this is a massive problem that we look at every day here as the shopping centers with all this asphalt. And frankly, it's ugly. And then you go down to the GDOT parking down there, the park and ride. And I remember I was hoping that, and I never found out what happened, I wasn't on counseling more, is if GDOT would have given us some flexibility and not make us, remember, they wouldn't give us the property, they wouldn't, but they would allow us to pay and maintain it. And they weren't going to, and we care about how our city looks, so we repaved it. But My hope was that they would have let us pave less of it. Would they have allowed us to get rid of some of that asphalt and put more greenery down there next to that big road? It makes it hotter, it's uglier, you can put in some landscape. Okay, that didn't happen there. But in these big parking lots, now we make them break it up.
Right.
You know, they
yeah,
have to put in some little medians, put some trees. How can we accomplish the one thing, which is, okay, you don't have to put 50% behind the building, and yet not have these giant parking lots? How can we get to, is that unless somebody has another priority, is that a consensus that we want to have enough parking, but let's not have parking lots that have
Yeah,
500 extra spaces all year long?
right. Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay,
that's
we got a
exactly where we're
consensus. How do
going.
we do that?
We go back to work.
Okay.
That's what we do.
Are y'all good with that? Let's go see if we can accomplish that.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. That's why we have work sessions. Okay, so, do we carry that, David, would we carry that over till tonight and then table it there?
Yes, I think you just take it till tonight and table it with direction to the staff.
Mayor, if I may, I mean, the
Yes.
only concern I have about tabling it is if there are some pending, I don't want to, if there are some,
Are we holding somebody up?
right.
Yes.
And I don't want to be doing that
You're
either.
also going to cost us a restaurant
Okay. So, yeah, I didn't
or
want to
two.
do, I didn't want to
I
do
guess
that
two.
kind of thing. I didn't want the unintended consequence from us deliberating on
Well-
it too
If a
long.
chain has a minimum parking
And-
plan, and that's greater than our maximum, then they're not gonna come.
Okay,
we-
so here's my concern over what just happened. Okay, we've been having this discussion for a period of time. Had that question not been asked, we may not have been told that. We need to know that during the discussion, because that makes a difference. So tell us now then, or we can talk about it, have some interaction, not three of us together, in between the meeting to try to work something out. Can we still work on this plan long-term and not hold these people up? Is there a way to do that, not hold up? We don't want to lose a business because of it, or make their life miserable, or cost them a whole bunch of money. We don't want to cause a business owner a bunch of money. They can't open because we're still working out a plan. Is there a way to do both of those?
What we need is a shopping center ordinance,
Right.
which we don't have, which is
Right.
gonna address the places where it could be wasteful. But what we're finding in all of these developments is we're making people do the minimum. Because if we let them, they'll do less than our minimum. Because it's expensive. It costs land and it costs development.
So maybe an
So
alternative
that's
is-
not the problem. The problem is these rare cases like the Tanner building where they're trying to put people in the second floor. They don't have the space to park people. So they have unbuilt office space and they can't use it
because there's too
because
much.
we have a maximum. The maximum just, to me, the maximum makes sense in the shopping center case, but in most other cases, the economics determine the maximum.
Right, and that's kind of what my thought was. I mean, the folks who are preparing the businesses would know better, but yet we have an ordinance that requires to see a parking lot. I mean, I guess then kind of hearing that information, what I would say is I suppose we would consider this tonight. Not saying we're approve or denial. We consider this tonight, but then our direction to staff would be to
Work on a.
a shopping
Shopping
center,
center.
thank you, a shopping center ordinance that does have a maximum to avoid the issues that the mayor and I kind of addressed. If that's
Yeah.
fair
and-
to everyone.
And we need that anyway. We need it anyway because it came into play over there on the Jeff Matthews property near Dunkin' Donuts,
Right.
that our ordinance doesn't fit what we're trying to do there, where the shopping centers aren't the strip mall. They're, restaurant here, and they have shared parking.
That's great. And if we went forward with this, then we would have staff just work on the major shopping center parking lot ordinance to try to get inserted in the next council meeting, and that way we could let these know.
This got to go through P and Z and
Well,
all
P
that.
and Z and, yeah. Start the
future
process.
soon
Yes,
council meeting.
I got you.
Right, we get it in the system.
We'll get it in the queue. There we go.
Okay, so what do we want to do? Will of the council, I mean, feedback.
Well, I think we have to hear it tonight, so.
Yeah.
but- Oh,
Yes, Councilman McCoy. I see you. I see that hand.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. We need to hear it tonight, but like I thought we established, like maybe there's a way that they get it in the queue that we need a shopping center ordinance, and this is, we consider this on a temporary basis. Can that be done?
I mean, it's a text amendment, so you can take it out and put it back.
Oh, okay.
right, that's what I was thinking. I mean, I guess if we find that it's problematic, then we just
Right.
reinstitute or pass another text amendment, adding it back in.
I mean, if you look at the newer stuff, look at Popeyes, or when IHOP finally gives us a plan, there's not too many parking spaces. Whataburger, which we just mentioned, they're not gonna, I mean, I don't like the sites because there's not enough drive lane. The sites aren't, you know, they're putting 10 pounds of flour in a 5-pound bag over and over and over again. I mean, that's what developers do. And as we build out, it will become more frequent because there'll be fewer sites that are optimum.
Yeah, I don't know how they're even can maneuver up there like Popeyes, and I don't know what's going to happen with the IHOP. Thing we have to consider is it's not always just a regular car coming in there. You think about a landscape trailer coming in where the guys are going for lunch. You know, we tow an RV, sometimes it's a cargo trailer, you know, and you think about them going in, there's got to be some room to move. So, you know, I'm not an expert on that. I just want, if we have some flexibility, and if we can build in some flexibility administratively, any of that we can do that it doesn't necessarily always come to us, y'all have common sense, you go, you know, hey, this situation's a little different, we need to flex and have more space or whatever.
Can we talk about Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, that's why they're buying more property, right?
They're going to 3 lanes though, 3 drive-throughs.
He's gonna reorganize that entire thing.
They're gonna move back. They're taking land in the back.
Yeah, because it's gonna be something a little bit more
Oh.
like the Carrollton Chick-fil-A.
They're not going to the side, they're going back? Like,
They're doing both,
like
I
the
think.
Carrollton
They
one
wanted to
on
go to the side, there's
Bankhead?
a fiber optic cable in there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, all right. I guess we can even network a little bit more between the meetings, but at this point, it's got to come back anyway. Okay, thank you. I know that took a little longer, but we want to get it right, so as right as we can. Okay, human resources, C, number 1. Hey, Tiffany. Biometric screening agreement with Tanner Health Systems.
Yes, I'm presenting the agreement with Tanner Health Systems to do our biometric screenings. They will take place at our health fair on March 21st for the city employees.
It's pretty much just a continuation of what we've been doing,
It's
right?
exactly the same as last year, yep. Same price, same everything.
Any questions from the council? Okay, can we make this consent item number 3? Thank you,
Thank
Tiffany.
you.
Main Street, you got a bunch. It's good news, though. We've got some great people coming on. I got to even watch some of those interviews.
Good afternoon, everyone. My first item this afternoon is the approval of the revised lease agreement for the Mill Amphitheater. The Mill Amphitheater is used primarily for city events such as festivals and concerts, but we do also rent. It's also available for rent and used by the general public. And I looked at last year's, and we had like 6 rentals other than what the city does. The last update to the lease agreement was February 12, 2019, that included revised rules, regulation, and fees. So today's staff proposes 2 fee increases to the lease agreement as listed below. So what the proposal is take the rental fee from $300 to $400, the 4-hour max increase to 6 hours max. The reason for that is when someone rents the amphitheater and they've got 4 hours, well, by the time they set up and by the time they take down, they're really out there about 6 hours. So it just made sense to give them 6 hours. Also, the security fees increased from $40 per hour to $50 per hour. And this goes through the police department. And the number of police officers, of course, will be based on the type of event that's going on. So staff recommends the approval of the revised lease agreement effective February 14th, 2024. There will be some additional revenue for the rental that will offset the maintenance costs of the grounds and to ensure the safety of the attendees, participants, and staff and smooth operation of the event. So my motion is, of course, to approve the revised lease agreement for the Mill Amphitheater effective February 14th, 2024.
We appreciate that motion, but it's going to have to wait for that. Actually, it doesn't.
I know, I shouldn't even read it. I just kept reading.
It's on the cover sheet.
But that
doesn't have to
revised
wait if
lease
it's a consent
agreement's
item.
attached.
That's true. Any questions from council? Yes, Councilman McCoy. Do y'all mind if I just say councilman? Just say
yeah, you're
councilwoman,
fine,
and we'll
you're
just keep it standard? Okay, thank you.
You're fine. Yeah, I was, and you kind of explained it, but I was noticing when I was looking at the packet, the rental fee agreement was 3 hours, 300 for 4 hours, which is $75 an hour, and 400 for 6, which was 66, almost 67. So if they were staying more than 4 hours, we weren't charging them?
No,
So if it was like a 8-hour event or something?
no, it was just the $300.
Okay.
So after being in this department and watching it last year, that's what I began noticing from the individuals that I rented the amphitheater. Because when we talked about what type of event it is, how long they're going to be out there, it's more than 3 or 4 hours, actually. And I thought maybe just a little increase, not drastically. And, we get calls all the time because this venue, even though it is outside, is very cheap, as you know, compared to all the other venues around here. They're at least, $1,200, $1,500.
Okay, how many, refresh my memory, I know you just said it.
6.
6 private events last year.
Right. This year, I've already gotten a lot of calls. I've already booked another concert for a local band.
Okay.
And then I've got a lady that's wanting to do a 5K memorial race, but she's working with community development right now on a special event. But we get calls all the time about this. But
Okay, that kind of answers my question that there aren't any multiple events in one day. It's not
no,
like,
last year we did have an increase of church events, and that's because one particular church on Van Wert Road was going through a renovation. So they leased it quite a number of times, so that won't happen this year.
okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate even the fact that we are so reasonable in our costs, because in a number of circumstances that they're hosting an event downtown and bringing people downtown for something, that's a good thing. Otherwise it's sitting over there. It'd be great to see kids even playing over there more often, which would happen during COVID. People were desperate, they'd get over there with a ball or a Frisbee and the kids would run around or use chalk. Okay, we could make this consent.
Excuse me.
Other question? Yes, yes, Danny.
On the s-
Councilman Carter.
On the security fees, is that per officer, or,
For Villa Rica Police Department, that's per officer,
okay.
yes.
Anything else? Everyone okay if we go ahead and make this consent item number 4?
Yes.
All right, we'll go to the appointments now. There's 3 of those appointments to Main Street.
Okay, the first one is appointment of a new member to the Main Street Advisory Board. The board is a 7-member board with official appointment by the City Council. I'm going to skip on down to the board had 2 members whose terms ended at the end of 2023 who did not wish to be reappointed, and 2 other members resigned in December 2023, which left us out of 7 with 3 members. After advertising the vacancy, staff received an application from Petronia Brogdon. She was interviewed by the board at the January 19 monthly meeting, and the board has recommended the appointment of Petronia. Just a note, with only 3 members of the Main Street Advisory Board, there was no quorum. We have no quorum right now. So we desperately need members on this board. Petronia, she lives in Villa Rica and has a lot of experience volunteering for special events with her job. She's employed at Cobb and Douglas Public Health as an environmental health specialist. She lives out in the Mirror Lake area. So staff is recommending the appointment of Petronia to the Main Street Advisory Board to fill the unexpired term of Rhonda McCullers through 12/31/2024.
Any questions? Make this consent item number 5. And thank you for sharing a little bit about them, because some of these people are coming with they've done some of this type of thing and events and all, and so they come with some unique talents and gifts to add to this board.
Oh, yeah, and if they want to work, we'll
Yeah.
put them to work, definitely.
Hardworking board.
But I think it's good to interview them as well, too, before. Okay, I have another appointment. I'm not going to read all the background like I did before, but after advertising again, we did receive another application from Rita Wilson. She, too, was interviewed by the board. Rita also lives in Villa Rica. She's employed with Greystone Power as the HR manager. So we have a big contact with Georgia Power now. She has been involved in the Cultural Arts Council in Douglasville for the last 8 years and will like to get involved in her Villa Rica community. So the staff recommends the appointment of Rita Wilson to the Main Street Advisory Board to fill the unexpired term of Caroline Cox through 12/31/2024.
Any questions? Consent item number 6, do we have a consensus on that? Okay, good. All right, next one.
Okay, the next one is we received an application from Barbara Daniel. She too was interviewed by the board at the January meeting. The board recommended the appointment of Barbara Daniel. Barbara lives in Villa Rica and is retired, but also works part-time for Home Furnishings. She was employed by the city of Villa Rica as the city clerk and Main Street manager. She was actually one that got the Main Street accreditation to the city. She currently serves on the Downtown Development Authority. So staff recommends the appointment of Barbara Daniel to the Main Street Advisory Board for a term to expire on 12/31/2025.
Any questions? No. Okay, we'll make this consent item number 7. Did I move ahead? 6? Is that the last one?
Yes. So
7,
that'll
okay.
give us 6 members. So in the meantime, I've received 7 more applications.
Wow, so we'll be all right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there that want to get involved.
No, and I'm so excited about
Yes.
us using the local artists, too. Between the Coca-Cola thing and other people have stepped forward, I connected another lady that gave me her card probably 2 years ago that's an artist that wants to be connected in with that group. And
Good.
yeah.
Great. Okay.
Right.
And I think they came to see me.
Probably, and I can't think of her name right offhand,
Yeah.
but I had told her to get in touch with
Yeah.
you because I knew
told her
you.
about the design committee.
Yeah.
You know, the design committee, we've already
Yeah.
got 3 local artists, so we'll take them.
Yeah, and if y'all if they do a project or whatever. Okay, item number 5 is the professional services with RCS
Yes.
Productions.
This request is to approve the 2024 professional service contracts with RCS Productions Incorporated for the Villa Rica Main Street concerts and festivals at the Mill Amphitheater. So this year, Main Street has got 6 events, including the Thomas Dorsey Festival, to be held there, engaged in RCS production. The first one is our West Georgia Arts and Jazz Festival on Saturday, April the 27th. And you see the attached with the artists, the headliner is going to be Tom Braxton, and he has a huge following. So he's going to be like Ken Ford. He's going to bring a lot of people. And just another note, too, who else is going to perform at that? We've got the Villa Rica High School Jazz Ensemble that will perform for us. We have the Villa Rica High School Majorettes that will perform. We also have a local artist who has played at the Olive Tree and other places. We've given him a 30-minute slot, too. He actually came to us. We're adding arts to this jazz festival, so Landon Prather will be there doing a live painting that Main Street is going to auction off. That's going to be one of our fundraisers, and we're trying to gather a group of artists, so hopefully that'll kick off an art festival for next year like the Arts Coalition used to do downtown. But really excited about that. Our summer concert number 1 is Saturday, June the 1st, and Michael Jackson will be here in live, living color. No, not really.
Tribute artist.
It's a tribute band of Michael Jackson. Will be here on that one called Who's Bad. Then we've got the Thomas Dorsey Festival, and RCS works with them on Saturday, June the 29th for their concerts. We have the summer concert number 2 on Saturday, July 20th, and that's going to be a Bruno Mars tribute band, so that's 2000s. Summer concert number 3 on Saturday, August the 3rd is Jimmy Buffett tribute band. They've played in Carrollton a few times. And then our Gold Rush summer concert number 4, which will be Friday, September the 20th, will be Velcro Pygmies. And just a note that we have moved the Gold Rush Festival a week ahead. And you can see those dates, and the reason is to not compete with the local festivals that are going on the same day as us. We feel like that we would get additional qualified vendors if we moved our festival away from Carrollton's and the big one in Paulding County that they've had for a number of years. There's also one going on at Stone Mountain. So we thought that would be better. Hopefully it might be a little bit cooler. So just take a note that the Gold Rush Festival has been moved. We've been talking about that for a number of years, so the Main Street Board did vote a few months ago to change those dates. But just RCS Productions, we've been using them. It looks like maybe 5 years now. You may remember when you were on the board. But they have provided excellent customer service to us for years. I worked with them last year, and there's probably companies out there that give that level of service, but I mean, it's going to be hard to beat them. Marcus and them are out there early. He is out there waiting on the artists, the bands to arrive. He does not leave until they leave that night, which is probably about 11 o'clock at night. Very dependable. When we need them, they're just a phone call away. They've just been very easy to work with. And so their contracts are attached, the service one and the artist. So staff is recommending to engage RCS Production Incorporated to provide the production services and entertainment for the 2024 Villa Rica Main Street concerts and festivals at the Mill Amphitheater in the amount of $85,675. And just a note, that's down about $15,000 from last year. So,
Any questions from council? Yes, Councilman Carter.
Okay, so you didn't go out for bids on this, it's
no,
sole
we did
sourcing.
not. No.
5 years in a row, sole source. I noticed on your handout, Gold Rush is 20th and 21st, but you only show it the 20th on here.
Well, that's the concert that's listed on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because just the concert occurs on the Friday evening.
And
Used
the
to occur
festival's on
all on one
Saturday.
day, a never-ending day, right?
Yeah,
It would occur
that's
Saturday
another
night.
discussion, whether, we used to have it all on one day, and then they split it off, and then we talked about it again, but staff, especially the ground staff, are fine with it on Friday and Saturdays. It's just a long weekend, and some of us actually don't go to bed on Friday night, so we stay up all night. But, Karina's young, she can handle that, and you know what? I was supposed to call and get her on the phone, but I did not, but y'all don't have any questions for her, so she's good.
How do you know if we're getting the best deal if we don't ever bid this thing out?
Well,
If we
when
stick with the same one every year?
They bid it out about 5 years ago, and the way I understand, the bid was the lowest bid. I'm not 100% sure, but honestly, Danny, I would not want to use anybody else but RCS
Well, you're used to
Production.
them, but at the same time,
Yeah, they are
you don't know
just
what's out
great.
there.
Like right now, we're picking out bands that will open up before the concerts, and I just,
Well, we're a little far into the year. Maybe that's something we should consider. I agree that every so often, even if you get really good service, you should kind of check
could be for next
on
year.
some other.
since
It
it's
never
been
hurts
5
for them
years.
to feel like they have a little
Yes.
competition too.
Yes.
But they do have a good reputation, and I know they do the Dallas events.
And Douglasville.
Yeah.
They're now doing Douglasville.
Councilman Warmoth?
So my question was in regards to Gold Rush being changed from previous years for the date. So do we have any kind of contact list from previous vendors?
Yes.
Or have we contacted?
well,
And
the-
I ask because I've already been contacted by somebody with the Shriners who was upset and wondering why.
That was probably
But your explanation is a really good explanation that I think
You
would
probably
be
were
more
contacted
receptive.
with the Shriners, but we've been in contact with the Shriners before the end of the year. They knew we were doing this.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just making sure
They did,
that they've
and
been
the
in
Golden
contact.
City Cruisers as well. The Shriners met with me last year, and they said if you do change the date, they just need to know by the first of the year, because their calendar goes out by the end of February.
Understood. I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that there
You
was
were
some
just talking
contact.
to one of the members. Oh, yeah, they have, and we have advertised this all over our social media. The Go Rush, I'm not sure if the vendor applications are out there. The concert, only the Jazz Festival concert tickets are for sale. We're getting ready to release the rest, but I'm not sure the vendor's application is out there on our website, but it's got the dates on it. But I will certainly let Karina know to go ahead and contact them, the ones that's been coming every year, so that they can get ahead on their dates.
Okay. I think a Shriner got in contact with me too, so it just didn't get down through all their membership. Looks like they got notified at the time they asked
Yes,
to be
they did.
notified.
Are we still competing with any festivals
I
nearby?
did find out that the Haralson County Sweet Pie Festival.
Oh,
or
the fried
something.
pie, you
The
just got to
fried
do
pie.
both. Go there, eat
Yeah.
your pies, and come.
But I didn't, we were just thinking of Paulding County because I go to the Paulding County one every year, and there are Villa Rica vendors there who have told me they choose that one over Gold Rush.
Talk about that.
Yes,
what's it called
because
there?
if you've ever been to it, it's very nice. It's, I mean, they've already closed it for the year.
Right.
Well, how big is the fried pie festival?
I don't know, I've never been.
I don't know how big it is. I know it's very
Is it
popular.
fried or is it?
They're fried pies, and they have multiple vendors, and they sell out. The word I was getting is they were selling out every year. So I think I've only been maybe twice over a decade.
I don't know the
but-
time that they have it either, so
Yeah.
But the point is, we're only going up against one instead of
Right.
three others, it sounds like,
that's
right?
correct.
Yeah.
Like
And we're
Paulding
going,
Mega.
yeah, we're not going against the Paulding County one. That was the one
Right.
that.
Right.
Which
yeah,
I assume
which
is much, much larger also, and Carrollton's right here, so that's our
Very,
sister city. So,
very.
okay. Can we, how about with making this consent item number 8? All righty, goodness gracious, is this the most you've ever had on the agenda? Okay, one to go. Downtown Gateway and Directional Signage Project, I can't wait to hear about this, because I was in another small city yesterday and appreciate that they had those wayfinding signs. And
Okay.
this is the big ones, I think.
So you're probably familiar with this. The Downtown Gateway and Directional Signage Project was a part of the Downtown Development Authority from 2017. It was a part of the Downtown Master Plan in 2016, the RSVP. A lot of you remember that. I actually attached it, if you haven't looked at it, to your packet. Citizens had a desire to have more attractive and appealing signage throughout downtown. So the DDA back in 2017 solicited proposals from qualified companies. And the DDA approved a bid from ACSM Incorporated for a total of $76,372. Included in that project were 4 gateway signs and other signage, other directional signage. And what happened during that time, from what I can understand, that staff ran into issues with 2 of the property owners that would not sign the lease agreements for various reasons. So in early 2023, I met with the 2 property owners. They finally signed off on them, and the project moved on. In the meantime, we looked at a different design, but decided not to go with it because of the cost. Instead, we decided to keep the original design, but change the original color scheme. The original color scheme, as you can see in your packet, was brown. So we're looking at more of a gray color scheme. So staff recommendation is the approval to allow ACSM Incorporated to complete the construction and installation of the signage used in the gray color schemes. Now, in your package, you'll see the write-up from Chris Pike, where the DDA approved the bid during a special called meeting. I've got the bid summary form. I've got photos of what it looks like and the gray color scheme that I'm proposing instead of the brown color. And it's got a map of where they're going to be placed. And just to let you know that when I started here and started working on it, those signage were about 80% complete, and then they were told to stop. Now they're actually complete, waiting on the color scheme. They're paid for, so this is not going to cost the city any more money. It's paid in full. And Tom felt like I needed to bring it to you all for your okay for them to go ahead and finish it and get it installed. That way, after 7 years, we can finish this project.
Councilman Carter?
Okay, so they've already collected their $76,372.
It's already paid for.
And we're changing the color. They hadn't applied the color to these
No.
things? Okay, so they're not gonna come back to us wanting more
No.
money for changing?
I verified with him last week, and I told him where we were, and I let him know on Wednesday after council meeting. I said, I just want to confirm it is paid in full. He said yes. So Sarah, actually, when Sarah Andrews was here, worked on this, and we got the rest of it paid.
Any
So-
other questions?
sorry.
Yes.
So
Councilman Montahan?
why are we switching from the brown, from what looked like in the original, was a little bit more, less industrial looking, and the gray ones just look,
Well,
it
I
looked
thought
less inviting. I mean, from the images at
brown,
least.
from
but-
what I understood, Chris Pike wanted a railroad color
Okay,
look, feel to it.
okay.
And we felt like we needed to go to a more updated type color feel,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
I looked at blues, I looked at grays.
I mean, when you look at the brown, I mean, it looks like the kind of color scheme you would see in, other
Yep, if that's-
communities, but I don't know. I just didn't know.
Not my expertise.
I just know that I just know there's been like discussions about colors for the city and branding, et cetera.
Well, I waited on that, and I've got to finish this project.
right.
They're done, they're waiting on our paint.
And I guess, is that why we were told that they were 70 or 80% done and told to stop? Is because we were waiting
They
on
were
that?
stopped because of the lease agreements not signed by
Okay.
those property owners, and
Okay.
it went on for like 3 or 4 years like
Yes.
that. I'm not
Right.
sure why it took so long.
Okay.
But-
I'm not completely sold on the gray and white. It looks more industrial. I like the brown. It kind of makes you think it's a little bit more inviting, a little more state park feel, if you want to call it that. But that's just my view. But-
That's what the brown would look like. We did look at new designs, but from 7 years ago, the cost is like more than triple. And,
Okay.
the DDA does not have that kind of money
Right.
to pay for new signage, so we're just going to go with it.
I mean, the biggest, if you can go to the directional signage is the biggest difference for me, I think, from that. Not really so much the gateways, because the gateway, this looks
Well, I
like
mean, if
that's
you
the-
all want the brown color, you all just make a decision.
I'm okay with
I
not
just-
being part of
I
that
had
decision.
brown, blue colors and grays.
Yeah, see, that's the gray one, right? And then if you compare
Yes.
it to the, I mean, just, I don't know. It looks a little more inviting, but that's just me, though. I mean,
Maybe if you've run it by your advisory group and the artist and the people, I feel like they got more of an eye for that at least than me personally. I'm good with either. But let me ask you this. So are we going to get directional also? Is this, okay.
It's all in the packet.
Okay,
It's
that's
in
what
all the
I,
bids.
that's what I thought I understood, but I reviewed this last week and I did not get a chance to review it again. This has been a long time in making, and I know sometimes some of us get discouraged and some citizens, are we gonna do any of that stuff with the Renaissance? I just put a giant yay, exclamation, next to this, to see some of this come to fruition. Thank you
Yeah.
for staying on top of that. I know there were a couple other people involved. One of them is also sitting in this room that helped us finally get those landowners to agree to these signs, and we're gonna see
Yeah.
them. And I'm just so glad we're gonna do it.
yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about this. I was on this RSVP committee 2015. I
Yes.
mean, this is 9 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about this. I just don't know if it's just the color, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, I really did not want to go with purple and gold, so.
Can you imagine the debates in the household? Whereas at
Well,
my
maybe
house, I rule,
gold.
right? I get to pick the colors. You guys might have to. Okay, anything else? Anything else? We're good. Okay, let's make this consent item number 9. And if I ever number them wrong, let me know, Danny.
So now, what about the
Okay.
color? So y'all just want us to make the decision?
That's the way I feel about it, but we've got.
It's a
we've got
DDA
into-
project. I could get them to make it.
Okay, whose project and who paid for it?
Downtown Development
I
Authority
kinda think
and the
that
city
they-
of Billerica.
Okay, all right. Because
Not
I was going to
Main
say,
Street.
I kind of
It's
feel
not
like.
Main Street.
Yeah, it came out of DD. I kind of feel like I'm okay with the people that made it happen
Yeah,
choosing, but, that's just me.
okay,
I've got no problem with them doing it. They were the lead.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Alrighty?
thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Elisa. Consent item number 8, and we'll go on to, 9, yes. Police, and we have Officer Lujan, and I'm sure Sergeant, Corporal, Captain. I quit. I'm just going to say officer. Officer Lujan.
Captain
Chief.
Lujan.
Wait, I heard he was going to take
He's
over
gonna
for you, and you're
present.
here. Okay.
I just wanted to make the mayor and council familiar with an accident involving one of our part-time officers. Yesterday, there was a pretty bad accident at the Triangle involving Jeff Shelton, who works part-time for us in court. Pretty substantial injuries. I know last I heard he was in surgery today at Grady, but I just wanted the mayor and council and the public to keep him in their prayers.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Afternoon.
The police department is looking to purchase an additional canine. This is going to be a budgeted item out of the general fund. A little bit of history. We had a dog retire at the end of 2022, and we went several months without a dog that was deployed in the field, which we lose out on in those incidents and circumstances when we don't have a dog. So we were able to purchase a dog at the end of 2023. Happy to report that dog is doing great, and the handler and the dog have successfully completed training, and they are currently working on the road. But we are looking for an additional one for the functions within the agency. This purchase is going to be from Rica Canine LLC, which is an established vendor from the previous purchase. In their guarantees, if we are allowed to purchase the dog, they guarantee the dog free of any health defect for 2 years. They also guarantee its performance for 1 year. The purchase also includes a 12-week handler course and additional training if needed for 1 year after the purchase. So this purchase will complete and restore the agency's ability to have control over this needed function. There are several advantages to having a canine with criminal apprehension, tracking missing persons, article searches for a item involved in an incident, and having two will also help with peak performance with resting if a critical incident does take place, or a big job. These dogs are they need some rest if they get worked hard enough, so we can take advantage of that with two. So we just move that you guys allow us to make this purchase.
Councilman Warmoth?
What's the yearly cost for a canine?
The original purchase of $16,000, and then there's regular checkups for that we do through our insurance and training costs, and it most of the money is up front with the building of a kennel and the upfront basically equipment. But other than that, it's there's no long-term money issues.
And this would be something that could be easily worked into your budget, right?
Yes, it's a budgeted item. Yes, ma'am.
Well, no, I saw that it's a budgeted item, but just as far as your yearly expenses for them.
Yes, ma'am. We take into account of that because the officer does get paid 1 hour of kennel time per day, so that is incorporated in that position, as well as training. We like for them to train 1 time a week, but we flex out time and try to limit overtime as much as possible with that as well.
Right. Thank you.
Councilman Carter?
I noticed, you're sole source this to one outfit. Nobody else provides this service?
We did, with the first purchase, we did look at, we had a couple of options through a military program, but that didn't really work out a whole lot. This company is local. They're out of Barnesville, Georgia. So it's if we need additional training, it makes it easier to deal with them.
Is this the first time we've used this company?
This year, yes, sir, with the 2023 purchase, yes. The previous canine came from another agency, the one that we did have that retired at the end of 2022.
And what, the other agency is no longer involved? They didn't want to bid on this project?
I'm sorry?
The first agency that you dealt with, that you're dealing with another one now?
No, sir. That dog came from another police agency, not a canine dealer.
Okay.
That brings up a question.
Yes, Councilman McCoy?
So is this the first canine we're buying as the city? Because I remember the other one we tried to get through the military programs a couple of years ago, and then the one that retired came from another agency. So is this our first?
The purchase in August of 2023 was the first.
Okay.
This will be the second from that same company.
Okay.
And who's our other dog that we still have?
We have one right now. That is the new one. His name is Z-Car.
Z-Car, okay. Because I knew Bono, he went off into retirement, right?
Yes,
Happy
ma'am.
life, relaxing, okay.
That's right.
Right, yes.
Do you already have somebody in place to match with this dog?
Yes, ma'am. We have kind of got the process started minus the purchase. We did have an officer meet with the owners and handlers at Rica Canine, and they have started the process with pairing him with a dog.
Okay, any other questions? Can we make this consent item number 10? Everybody's good? Okay, consent item number 10. We'll move on to F, Public Works. I believe Tori's going to make the presentation on the first two of these.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Afternoon.
So the purpose is to purchase a 2023 Polaris Ranger. It's to assist us in our daily operations. A little bit of the background, we have, I know, 3 golf carts that unfortunately we don't use daily anymore because they're on their last leg. And we're put this in the budget. It is a budgeted item to replace one of the golf carts this year and slowly throughout the next few years to keep replacing these golf carts that are out of date. Our recommendation is to purchase the 2023 Polaris Ranger SP 570. Is needed to assist with our daily operations that range from cleaning up the parks, parking lots, to hauling materials and equipment for field use. It'll also be utilized for events when needed. These include the 3rd of July setup and breakdown of concerts at the mill and several other special events the city holds annually. Also spoke with Sergeant Gunkel, and in the case the PD ever needed it for missing persons or any kind of emergency they needed, he made a good point and asked if they could ever use it, and what's ours is his. So another little thing thrown in there. I do need to throw this out there. Spoke with Jennifer earlier. The budgeted item we had was a 2023 Landmaster L3, and the price of it was $89,950. We purchased a new vehicle this year, and we had $4,859 left over from that. So I got with Hal, and we were able to find this Ranger at a very good deal. And when I say good deal, the Landmaster we originally had only seats 2. The Ranger seats 6. The towing capacity is twice as much, and it's more feasible for what we do. So there is a price difference in there of $1,249 that we would move from our vehicle purchase over to this purchase. That's about all I have on that.
Okay, any questions from council? Are y'all good with us making this consent item number 11?
Mm-hmm.
All right, consent item number 11, we'll move on to purchase of tilt trailer.
This is the purpose to purchase a 21-foot Texas Pride tilt trailer for grounds maintenance, also known as an equipment hauler. We have one equipment hauler right now that it's no telling how old it is. I think we've done more welds and ramp replacement, all kinds of stuff. The axles aren't even rated for some of the stuff we need, so we're not able to use it every day. Let's see. We recommend to replace the current equipment hauler, and go with the 21-foot Texas Pride equipment tilt trailer. Main thing is for safety, hauling 10,000 pounds, 15,000 pounds of equipment, around town. We want to make sure we have the best trailer possible. And the big thing on it is it's about 45 minutes easier to load a piece of equipment on it, because all it does tilts down, you pull up on it, you have to worry about pulling out ramps and all that good stuff. And
45 minutes?
No. There's a little bit of exaggeration, but it is 15.
Like, I've been on one where it starts to tilt down, you
No,
got
it is 15 plus minutes with the current trailer we have, making sure it doesn't fall apart. There is a difference in this from the budgeted item. We had a 20-foot GPS equipment hauler for $5,800 in the original. Going back to the monies we had left over from the truck, we're able to get a trailer that's not only a foot longer, but it's also a lot easier and less stress on loading it, being the tilt trailer. And the difference in that is $2,450. So the new total will now be $18,494, and make it all said and done, these two purchases, we'll still have a little over $1,100 left over. So we won't have to tap into anything else.
Well, it sounds like between the two of them, the previous equipment you were using was not designed for the amount of weight you were carrying on this, and golf carts are the same way, you beat them all up out on a farm or something like that, whereas
Absolutely.
y'all are loading stuff on it,
Daily.
and, yeah, you gotta have a work cart. Not that I know what kind, but that's why I read what you put in here to explain it. I appreciate that. Any questions from council?
My only question was,
Councilman
is
Montana.
so the existing trailer y'all use, is it adequate condition? You're gonna post it on Gov Deals or anything, or is it just,
I'm sure we'll
Or is it-
post it or do some modifications to where we'll just use it to haul some maybe materials
okay,
or something like that. But
Okay.
that's something down the road. Hal and I'm sure we'll go over.
right, okay. Thank you.
And any other questions? Any objection to making this consent item number 12? Okay, that'll be 12, and Pine Mountain Gold Museum train.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Hey, Chris.
Council. So we are seeking to ratify the purchase of the necessary parts to fully rebuild the undercarriages of the Pine Mountain Gold Museum train. The packet you have has some background on the train. I'm going to give a little bit different background also. During Winter Wonderland, we had a drive shaft issue that ended it early. So during our investigations, we were noticed that all the wheels need to be replaced as well. This is a major safety issue. If the wheels become worn, they're not going to hold it on the train or on the track. Then we have a potential safety issue for our passengers. So during all that, I started looking around to other places that run a train. Six Flags is closed, so I found Stone Mountain. I found a man named Conrad Cheney. He actually runs the Stone Mountain locomotive up there. So during my conversations with him, he decided, hey man, why don't you just come out? Why don't you just come out and see what you guys got, give you some advice, and see what you have going on. So he actually came out with his crew, and he actually brought the construction people that work on their tracks as well. So we had some really great experts come out and look at the tracks, look at the train. And during all that is when we decided it's best to completely overhaul the undercarriage of the train. And we will be bringing back probably next month to do some rehab work on the tracks as well, because the tracks are making the train wear out. The components wear out quicker than they should based off some of the way the tracks actually run. So we'll be bringing that back here probably in about a month. But we are seeking to ratify the purchase of the parts.
Well, thank you for tracking them down. Everybody I know that ever does train stuff, they tend to be really passionate about that. It's almost like a hobby thing, and they just love it. And so they probably even liked coming out and seeing what we had. And how great for us to get some experts to look at our stuff. That's great. Any questions from council?
Chris, when you say ratified, that usually means that you had already purchased it?
Yes, it was
Okay.
authorized by Tom, because some of these parts are 6 to 8 weeks
Okay.
to be built. And obviously, the train not running, we're losing money by not
Right.
having it. So
Okay.
time was of the essence.
Did it make it through the holiday? You said something about something
About 2
stopping.
days before the end. It made it till about 2 days before the end of Winter Wonderland, and the drive shaft messed up, and we weren't able to finish, Friday and Saturday.
So
I
we had
think.
to do some ticket refunds or something like that.
I'm not sure. That's
yeah.
Okay, so-
That's a
Wes
separate.
could probably answer that.
Yeah, that's okay.
So it sounds like we've already done this. This is just fill in the bill. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we had to do 50% down. With Chance Rides, they require 50% down payment before they will even fulfill any of the order. So that's what this was.
It's all pretty much custom, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's why they want the money.
They're pretty much
Yeah.
a sole source.
Yeah.
We have to go.
They
with them
completed
as
the
far as-
work already?
No,
No.
they just now got the check.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so-
in process.
So we only paid 50%, so we're ratifying it. That's why it's still a
Yes.
not to exceed, because that's what's confusing me, was it's a ratification, but it's a not to exceed. Okay. I get it now. Thank you.
Any opposition to putting this on the consent agenda? Okay, that'll be consent item number 13.
Thank you.
City Manager, Mr. Barber.
Okay, the first item, we're going to talk about Clearview and South Street, Metal Arc again. So one of the things that we've done since we started this project is we have done multiple traffic counter studies for a week at a time, and we have installed temporary speed bumps on Clearview. And it's obvious from the data that we changed the behavior. We didn't make it better, we just moved it to South Street. And in the course of the apartment construction, one of the changes that will be made is that Meadowlark will be opened up to commerce. So if you can picture that, you've got South Street and Clearview, which are parallel to each other, and they sort of tee into Meadowlark. Meadowlark at the top against the apartments.
It's like a pie symbol.
There's a fence there that keeps you from getting from Meadowlark onto the Shindu, and Hal has got some more temporary speed bumps ordered. We're going to put them on South Street to make that traffic calming equal. And then I assume that as soon as we open Meadowlark, we're going to do the same thing on Meadowlark, and then we're going to see where we are. I don't think we should do anything else. And if we want to keep this item on the agenda and roll and talk about it every month, we can do that. But it's going to take a minute, I think, before we get to a place where what we do doesn't influence the behavior. So this is probably next fall, right? Because this summer we won't have traffic like we do during school. And it's the school traffic that's the problem. When you look at the data, it's,
The hours.
you know,
shows up,
there's
doesn't it?
there's one little 20-minute segment of time in the afternoon where this is where it's an issue. So I think this is going to go on for more than 6 months. This will be next fall before we decide what to actually do. If we do speed tables out there like we did on Dogwood, they're $6,000 a piece unless we do multiples of them, and then they're $5,000 a piece. And to do that many tables in one small neighborhood like that seems something inefficient or something. What?
Overkill?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, but anyway.
How long do the temporary ones last? I
They're-
mean, it
they're
depends
not.
on the traffic. I know that. The one in my neighborhood is small neighborhood.
We can cut the pavement and put in some concrete and mount them in concrete, but just putting them in the asphalt is temporary, right? I mean, it's the vibrations, they're just not made to be anything but temporary, I don't think. But we could do a more permanent job of mounting them. I just want y'all to know what we're doing, but there clearly is an issue with some of the top speed stuff that goes on out there during, the end of school. And so I think that the temporary ones will make a difference, and maybe there's something more cost effective we can do. But we're going to do South Street next as soon as the new temporaries come in, and then we'll come back and tell you what the next traffic count's telling us.
Are these speed bumps or speed humps? Are these speed bumps we put in?
They're a little lower than the table, but they're much narrower. You know how
It
the
sounds more like a bump than a hump,
Oh yeah, it's a bump. Wouldn't you say, Hal? Yes.
like Ingles.
More
It's a
like
speed
the-
bump. It's
like
nothing
the parking lots.
Ingles
like the
has
width
speed
of the
bumps, yeah.
table. It doesn't have the,
Yeah, Dogwood
the
has a
same
hump
profile.
and Ingles has the bumps, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Councilman Warmoth.
So if we know that it's a 20-minute window that is an issue, we could probably use some police presence out there. And the other question, the question that I have is, what would it take to make that a school zone?
Right.
And the reason I ask is because if it is made a school zone, then if drivers are 1 mile an hour over, a ticket can be issued at that point. I'm asking a question.
We were
I
gonna
think the
do it at
question-
1
the
mile
question
per hour,
for
but
y'all
it
is-
doesn't have that.
No,
10
but
it doesn't have
you
that
wouldn't
10 mile.
have, yes,
10
you
mile
wouldn't
per
have
hour
the 10
requirement.
mile an hour over. I mean, because you wouldn't be able to issue a ticket until they're doing at least 35 miles an hour.
Yeah, the question is that what you want to be us to be doing?
Maybe if
With
it were
police-
20 minutes over a period of weeks, people start telling their friends, man, you can get that ticket, and mom and dad get mad.
The only thing that's going to resolve this issue is going to be the police presence. When these kids, because we know that it's school traffic, so it's teenage drivers, these children, when they get a hefty fine and/or their license suspended, it will get the message across.
Y'all good with that?
Well, I mean, but it's 20 minutes now, but when we open up, and I just kind of learned that today, that we're going to have that entrance over there on Meadowlark for the apartments. And you're going to open up, you're going to have the back entrance into the apartments on Meadowlark, and you're going to also open up Meadowlark. I guess the back entrance is on Clearview technically, but you're also going to open up Meadowlark. I think you're inviting a lot, it's going to invite more than just that 20 minutes at that time. I'm one of those that I want to get out ahead of this stuff. I would like to install this stuff in there because we just know that it's going to happen. But I understand staff has other considerations. My other concern, and I want to see it as school zone too, and we probably just, it probably just takes an email over to the school, Scott Coward's office or someone to kind of get that more information on that.
I have
think
no
that's
idea
the
how you
ultimate.
get school zones, if you have to go higher up, or, I have no
Yeah,
idea. Does
probably-
anybody?
Yeah, so, we can work on that, and I'll probably shoot an email, but I just have concerns about this. I mean, because I think even in the report, it says something like the city personnel were almost getting run over. So, I mean, these kids are just kind of reckless, and, a greater police presence, it's a multifaceted response. Now, the question of lowering the speed limit, if it's not a school zone, I understand that there might be enforceability issues, but at the same time, we have many streets in this city that have less than a 25 mile per hour speed limit. So, and I mean, many streets. I mean, I just off the top of my head, Leslie Drive is 20 miles per hour. So it's that. Does that mean it's not enforceable? There's a lot of issues out there. So, and maybe if that's the problem, maybe we need to go back and raise all the speed limits out there to 25. But I don't think anybody here wants to raise the speed limits. I don't think that's palatable whatsoever.
Have you given up on lowering the speed limit to 15?
I don't want to right now.
Because if you do that, at least we can ticket them at 25, and that brings the ticket level down 10 miles an hour.
No. So if the speed limit were lowered to 15 miles per hour, it's not enforceable. So how are we going to issue any sort of citations? I mean, if somebody wants to run 80 through there, they can, because you can't issue a ticket at 15 miles per hour being the posted speed limit.
But at 25 miles an hour, you have to wait to hit 35, but if you put it at 15, you get them at 25, so.
Or you can turn it to a school zone and they can do 26 miles per hour and get a ticket for that.
Right, that's why it's good that we take some time to work through this.
And quite
not,
honestly, if
just jump on a decision that isn't going to work long term.
right, if speeding at 25 miles per hour is an issue, what is making it 15 miles an hour going to do? It's not going to suddenly make them stop. It's not going to suddenly slow them down. So, no, something will slow them down when they start getting tickets.
And the speed in the speed humps.
But,
In this case, they're bumps, but.
To that end, though, Councilwoman Stephanie, Councilwoman Warmer, sorry, the formalities. I think, and I don't want to talk on behalf of Hal, but at our last council meeting, I think he was making the point, and he can tell me, and he can clear us up or not, but there may be some, by lowering this, if we do install these more advanced speed bumps, speed humps, by lowering the speed limit, if we can show that they were going even over 15 miles an hour and there was some damage to their vehicle, that we actually would have a greater defensive liability there for whatever potential damage to a vehicle was done. Is that correct, Hal? He's shaking his head yes. I don't.
I have documentation that will support.
It's just sign language.
I do have documentation, I believe it's from the National Safety Council, that addresses that issue, that there have been many lawsuits and liabilities relative to speed humps and speed bumps. But yeah, there's plenty of those.
So if we have a lower speed limit on that road and we can show that they were going above that lower speed limit, though it may not be legally enforceable, then and that may be a David question
Correct,
a little bit
yeah.
too, as defense, but we would have an argument to say, no, we're not responsible to repair your shocks or your muffler or whatever, because we can see that you were going 25 and 15. Is that
I'm
accurate?
sorry, if they didn't slow down enough to
fair.
go over those, and we have the signs that you're approaching, we give them fair warning, you're approaching a speed hump or whatever, I can cite multiple lawsuits on slip and fall. So I'm not diminishing that argument, but we're in a litigious society, and people can sue over anything, and they're on TV every day getting more customers. So I don't think we can use that as an argument, only because everybody just sues over everything. Because they may very well sue us, being that we have a problem over there and we're not addressing it. We know kids are speeding, and somebody could sue us for, why'd we have to wait till somebody got killed?
Right.
You know, to act on it. And there's no sidewalks, if I recall, either.
No, there's
Are
no
there? I don't think
sidewalks over there.
I'm trying to remember even on Meadowlark. And so that means if you are a pedestrian, you're on the road or you're walking just on the edge in the dirt. And so I didn't mean that to come across as it's not valid. It could be a valid argument, but it just applies to so many things when it comes to lawsuits.
Yeah, I was just answering a question.
Yeah. I don't want to come across too strong.
Has another speed study been done with the speed bumps in place? And what did that show?
Clearview, traffic went down and it moved to South Street fast.
So they're dodging the speed bumps.
We just moved it over. That's why we're gonna put the bumps on South Street too. And then we gotta put it on Meadowlark when we open Meadowlark up.
I mean, I'm in favor of the speed bumps over lowering the speed limit, because again, lowering that speed limit, they can run 80 through there, and if they are ticketed for running 80, they will go to court, and that ticket will be thrown out every single time.
All right, well, that's a good clarification for me, because my understanding was that, and Chief David, you're municipal judge, David, maybe you can tell us, but my understanding was we can't ticket them for going 80 in a 15, but we could technically ticket them for the minimum speed of 80 in a 25. But that was my understanding.
But we're talking about lowering it to 15, right?
Sure, but I didn't. My understanding was that it didn't throw the whole ticket out. That it just
No, that's deceptive. That would be deceptive. If the posted speed limit is 15 miles per hour and a ticket is issued as the speed limit at 25 miles per hour, that's deceptive.
I mean, I don't know. I'm deferring to
That
David
happens
on-
all the time, though, and, you know, a lot of times the police resolve this by just issuing tickets for driving too fast for conditions, which is an alternate charge that the police can make when people are driving too fast and there are school zones or wet pavement.
I think we're finding that the person that's not going to pay attention to the speed limit sign at 25 is not going to pay attention to the one at 15. They slow down because they're forced to slow down. And the only two ways that happens is, number one, the speed humps, and number two, maybe word gets out that, dang, people are getting tickets over there and it's costly. Did you tell your mom and dad? I mean, you know, and I realize they can't sit there all the time. We only have so many officers, but when it's just certain minutes of the day, that's a little easier to handle, but that's up to y'all.
Do we have an idea of roughly how many cars are speeding? And I ask because would it be beneficial for one of the speed cameras? I mean, I understand that, like the speed camera, it's like what they have over at Bay Springs. And I understand that the speed cameras over at Bay Springs are probably more high-tech than what would be needed over there, but it would automatically issue those tickets in a school zone.
I think we're only wanting to do it in a school zone at this point, the cameras. We kind of made an
I'm just
exception.
asking.
Yeah. Here comes the other expert.
So the speed cameras, we are in the process of getting speed cameras for the high school on the main road, not the back roads.
Rocky Branch?
Rocky Branch. And we're on the process of getting them at Mirror Lake School. The thing about the speed cameras is right now they operate from school time, the first hour before school starts, they're at a reduced speed. So if you're coming up 61, that speed limit is 50 miles an hour, 1 hour before school starts and 1 hour after school ends. The other times in between that, it's at the regular speed, which is 60 miles an hour. So for you to get a ticket, you have to be running 71. There is legislation right now that they have presented last year that did not get passed, that they're trying to pass now, that will limit the cameras to only being 1 hour before, 1 hour after, and not during school. So, plus that has to be assigned a school zone, like you were discussing. For that to apply, there has to be a study. These company that does the speed cameras, it has to be worth their while to invest, because they pay for everything and then they split the revenue. So it's a process.
They're not doing it to not pay
and those
money.
those processes take anywhere from a year to 2 years to get actual cameras, because we've been working on this for over a year.
Right. And I understand. I just
Yeah.
wanted to throw that idea on out there, but, I mean, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman McCoy?
I was just going to say, I know we have to be formal and everything, but it would be so much easier if we just used our first names.
But it would be easier for me. I thought it was more formal and maybe amount of respect in there, but we'll talk about that outside the meeting, figure out what y'all would prefer. It's a little bit more for me to spit out.
So I was looking at this, and granted, I have not, even though I'm a math person, I have not looked at percentile since I took my ACTs in high school. But it says here an 85th percentile speed of 44 miles per hour was confirmed. So that means 85% of the people are going 45 or above. Okay, so if it's a 25 zone and 85% of the people are going 44 or above, that's like 19 to 20 over the already posted speed limit. But yet, that's where I don't see the need to lower it. That's a legit ticket right there to write them. So I guess
So, can I address that real quick?
Yeah.
We cannot write it at a 25. We have to write it at a 30 because it's not a school zone.
Okay.
So the minimal we can write it is 30. So they would have to be going 15 over. We usually allow 17 to 18. So
Okay.
it would be 48, 49, somewhere in that range.
which is within that range,
Yes,
which is
ma'am.
in the percentile. So that's my going back to Councilwoman Warmoth's statement is if it's just during this hour a day, 2 hours a day, even though it's not a school zone, having a presence, or maybe not while school's in traffic, because I know how I've had kids, I know how school gets backed up, is that maybe an hour after when kids are getting out of practice or getting out of extracurricular stuff, having a presence there to catch the people.
We can definitely have a presence there. I'm not sure that it is on our radar license.
Okay.
That's a question I was going to ask.
Yeah, that's the other thing
What you're setting the limits at, you can't run radar there, so how are you going to prove that they're speeding?
We can't run radar there because we can't go, because the speed limit can't be less than 30, or because there's a certain other criteria? It's not listed?
The state, they come in and do a study, and they tell us what roads we can run laser and radar on.
Okay.
If it's too curvy, we can't. If it's too hilly, we can't. If it's a certain grade, we can't. And so it's up to them on whether we can or not run laser or radar on there. Like David said a minute ago, if we're not allowed to run laser or radar on there, we can only ride them for maybe too fast for conditions.
Okay.
So it almost seems like a school zone is what is needed right there.
And I'm not familiar yet on how to get that done,
That's
so
some more
that's.
research.
We're gonna have to figure
I like
that
that
part
too
out.
fast for conditions, though. That comes
Yeah.
in very handy,
So
as
if
long
it-
as it's not abused.
Chief, if it
Because
was
you can
designated a
observe
school
it.
zone, Chief, if it was designated a school zone, so this, would the state then allow you to run radar then?
Well, that would have to be part of it too, is whether they allow us to or not.
But that would be, you could ask them now and say, well, this is a school zone now, so we could, the circumstances of the road.
We can ask them, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to make a plan for what we're going to do here. Lowering the speed limit, I mean, I don't vote. I can only give an opinion of if they're not obeying 25, they're not going to look and go, oh, it's 15, I'm going to slow down now because the numbers that I didn't obey before are now lower, so I'm going to start obeying. The speed humps do seem to be doing their job. Something long-term has to be done. Long-term, some investigation, and somebody will have to be assigned to it, but there needs to be a consensus before we have staff go off and do additional work. We need to agree, do we want to have the school zone issue looked into?
Okay. Right off the bat, our city manager said that he wanted to wait on pushing this one through until they had some data, because they're installing more speed bumps on South Street.
Okay, and it is having an impact, so it's not like nothing's being done. They've been installed on one street. They're going to go in on two more? Mr. Barber?
One more to start with.
Okay.
And then
South
when we
Street.
open Metal Art, then we'll do it over there too.
Yeah, so I think we need to give them some more time to come up with an answer.
Okay, and Councilman Momtahan, that was a really good point about when the apartments are open up and everything else, and Meadowlark is opened up, because listen, I can see myself coming down 78 and going, why do I want to go into that intersection by CVS if I can go up this back way and get into Chick-fil-A, Racetrack, and all that? So I imagine people will be using, I don't know that it would necessarily, probably South Street, it would be South Street, wouldn't it?
Right, beside the fire station.
Yeah, yeah. That would be the way that people might be cutting around all that busy traffic on 61, the intersection, especially when the bypass gets done, people are going to avoid it even more.
When
Until
they're
the
building
roundabout's built.
roundabout.
Which is what's great about Commerce, that access street. We need to have those everywhere. Everywhere I've seen them in cities where you don't have all those curb cuts and you can get to 10 things by getting off on an access street. That's just a really good traffic plan. Okay, what are we going to call this? If we're going to bring it back next month, it would be tabled. What do we, and I know you don't
Are
want
we
it to
gonna-
fall off the radar.
Are we going to table it to next month, or do we need to go to can we table it out to the April meeting?
Can we
Gives-
table
or
out
no?
that far?
Can we do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
You gotta
It's
decide
your-
that tonight.
Yeah, and it's your ward, Matt. I mean,
Right.
we all care about what goes on over there. It could be our kids or grandkids going down that street too, so it's not like we don't care. But I know it's your constituent, so I'm good with deferring to, you want to go to April?
I'm fine with April, just to give, I guess, staff time to install those things and maybe do another study or whatever needs to be done to prepare for whatever.
We can at
is-
least put the strips out, right? That's not real involved with doing the
As soon
data
as
we
they come
can.
in.
Okay. All right, so we'll we can table that now? Can we table, we have to vote on it,
No,
so
you need to
we
do
have
it
to do it
tonight.
tonight. We have to do it tonight, because we have to vote on it. Okay. All right, select vendor for new city website. Ken, you didn't know you were going to be sitting there so long learning about traffic patterns, right?
Oh, I've sat there, I've sat in place many times, so it's no problem. When I started with the city, first of all, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. When I started
Afternoon.
with the city 2 years ago, the city's website was the main thing I wanted to work on. City's website is its main communication platform. It's the place potential visitors and business partners learn about us, and it's also the place residents turn to for information about what's going on in their town. Our current website was launched in 2015, and there have been a lot of changes in web technology within that comparatively short period of time. Ours is outdated in many respects. It's very difficult to update, especially by new members of staff who were not trained 9 years ago when the website was launched. It's also difficult to navigate. We've had 100,000 unique visitors to the website in the past year alone, yet our analytics show that these visitors do not spend much time on the site, nor do they go very far inside the site. It's cluttered, and if a visitor searches for something, they are likely to find very old information. So people have come to expect a certain level of functionality in websites, which ours no longer provides. This means that staff are spending time fulfilling requests from citizens that those citizens should be obtaining from the website. And because 80% of all web site information is delivered through mobile devices, it's also clear that we needed a suitable mobile application to complement the website. The current budget approved $45,000 for a new website and $11,000 for a smartphone app. With those two projects combined, the total available for this project would be $56,000. Of equal consideration was the annual maintenance cost, which will be an ongoing expense for the city. On October 6th, we issued an RFP that produced a total of 13 prospective bidders. These included the top players in the local government space, as well as some very small companies. In examining these companies, I was interested in those that could provide an easier CMS or content management system, those who could provide a separate web experience for things like Main Street, the Pine Mountain Gold Museum, Parks and Rec. I also wanted a company that could create an aesthetically pleasing and forward-thinking design. And of course, I wanted a company that could provide all this within our allocated budget. 13 companies, as I say, responded to the RFP, one of which was disqualified because they only proposed a smartphone app and not a full website. Our current vendor, Municipal One, was invited to submit a proposal, and they submitted an attractive plan. I scored each company according to 5 major criteria. Each of these 5 areas had a potential score of 20 points, so that 100 was the highest possible score. These points were assigned according to the number of years the company had spent in the municipal space, how many of 20 basic features they were able to provide, including the ones I've previously listed, the general aesthetics of their representative websites, whether they could provide a smartphone app, and whether they could meet our budget, a figure that was not disclosed during the RFP process. The top 4 that's on the chart there have a great amount of experience in this field, but all had widely varying costs associated with their services. However, the proposal offered by Revise offers the most of our desired features at the most economical price point, both for the website and the smartphone app. I spoke with the web administrators in 5 Georgia cities that currently use Revise, and they all spoke well. Ackworth was a customer of Revise, but they have now taken their website in-house, and that's because they wanted more control on their design. Jim has worked with Revise in the past, and he is satisfied that they will treat us well. So I do have 4 example websites that we could look at. It's on the very last page of the cover sheet. If the links work. So this is Duluth.
Ken, what is the difference between an app included and app add-on?
Some of these companies did not have an app as part of an overall package, but they would provide it if you paid extra for it.
And some of them were included.
And some of them were included,
One that says
yes.
app included, they were included.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you see, this is a very simple website. It's very clear, very easy to navigate, and it's just much more attractive, even if they've misspelled a couple words there. Can you go and look at the next one? which would be Woodstock.
So the biggest thing for me on our current website is that the menus are not really, they're convoluted and they're not really instinctual, right? So
Right.
you're like, I'm clicking on government and then it says agendas and boards and committees, and I think like the city, our services, and it's just not very
Right.
informative. Or
So let's
if
just
you-
take a look at how some of the menus work on this site. If you could just like click on your government. So it takes you to a separate page where you can,
Right. Like, I think that's much better because your government, so people are going to think, oh, so mayor, city council,
right.
administration, et cetera, versus,
And
but yeah.
some of those things, if you don't have your mouse on it exactly right, then you get skipped into another area too. So this is
Sure.
this is a lot better treatment. Can we look at Chambly? The people in Chambly were very happy with Revise. There we go.
Ken, is the initial cost, the combination of the two, is it going to be 56,700?
That was the total price available. You mean for Revise, sir?
I mean, we had to pay the 48.6.
No. It's it would be 48.6 for the for both the website and the smartphone app, which is comfortably under our total budget.
Okay, what about the 8,100? When did we
That's
pay
per
that?
year, and that starts on the second year.
Okay.
So not
we
this year,
hope
but in
we
the-
get to look at it for a whole year and then we
Right
start.
in the 2025 budget. Yes.
Okay, that's not a bad deal.
Not at all.
Like the shortcuts here, I'm a resident, I'm a business. I mean, that is helpful. Yeah,
Mhm.
because people.
So this would make it a lot easier. A lot of the things like applying for a building permit, things like that, we can technically do on the current website, but it's very complicated. This hopefully would make it a lot easier for staff so that they don't have to spend a lot of time from their daily chores to, answer complaints or questions that they should easily be able to find online.
So I go to a lot of municipal websites and city websites, county websites in my practice. So Civic Plus seems to be
They're
the vast
gold
majority.
standard,
They're right.
They are extremely expensive as a result.
Mhm.
So
And the annual fee is $25,000. So
I used them in Fairburn.
yeah.
So there are a lot of good competitors out there. Municipal One, in fact, gave a very competitive price, but ultimately it came down, in my mind, to the general overall aesthetic of the website and the overall cost. And Civic Plus is twice an annual service what Revise would be. And everyone I've spoken with is very, very happy with Revise. So staff recommends the approval of Revise as our new website provider.
Obviously, once we get into it, we may have different considerations. I'm sure we were happy with Municipal One when they came along. I remember the website when I first moved here in 2012. Even for the time, even in 2012, it was pretty much past. It was kind of out of date and obsolete. So when we got the new website, it was improvement. But as the functionality never, and I guess I know now why now, because you can't update it because it's just a lot of the staff.
It's very cumbersome. It's
Right.
non-intuitive. This is basically a WYSIWYG. If you see it on the page, you can edit it right on the page.
Right.
Currently now, if I want to update your contact information, I have to go to a whole nother section on your bio page to update it.
Ken, how long is it going to take them to get it up and running with a new website?
I'm not going to say positively, but I think October would be a good time based on what
October, it takes them that long?
about that much time.
Wow.
Depends on how hard I push them, though, I suppose. Well,
Yep.
they have their practices, but I I can just stick a stick to them and get them going.
Yeah, you'd think if you give them a contract, pay them money, that they would put a guy on it, and it wouldn't take them that long to get some up and running.
You would think so, sir.
We're gonna have to update the content, though. They don't write our content.
That's correct. There's a lot of
They
content.
just create the website, we have to fill it
They're
in,
creating the structure, but we create
the data.
the content.
That's correct.
And it'll be a lot easier to keep it updated.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
because of, it's arduous right now,
And
whatever
and
we're
it'll
working
be-
with.
Right now, it's just a pain, and so some city staff people just don't have the time to do it,
Yeah.
and so it just never gets updated.
So that helps for the staff side, it needs to be user-friendly for the customer side.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Since it's, if this weren't budgeted, that's one thing, it looks like are we going a little bit over, is that what?
It's comfortably within our budget.
Yeah, yeah.
The total project would have been 56, this is 48.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, the
Okay.
initial one's under their budget.
Are y'all all right? Any opposition to this being? Okay, anybody opposed? I should rather say opposition, sounds kind of aggressive. Okay, this will be consent item number 14 then.
Okay.
All right. Oh, we should play Hallelujah for the next one. Let's hear that paving project list. Right. Roadway paving project. Oh, Tom's doing it. I'm looking back at Hal because I'm thinking about who's going to oversee all this.
Yeah, Bobby put this together with Hal and Dukes and others. So
We got some people that are out there that are ready for it.
yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, and we may talk about some of this Tuesday in the retreat, but we are budgeting $500,000 a year since I've been here in each SPLOST per year for paving. But we decided after the experience we had with HEH that we would not do this annually because we can't get the big guys to bid on $1 million. And our experience so far has been not real good with HEH. It was great with C.W. Matthews. It was not good with Baldwin. We're using Bartow right now to do the shoreline traffic signal, and that experience has been good. I dealt with Blunt in Fairburn and had really good experience. And Magnum is a local company who was not cost competitive, I think. So we got a set of bids from folks that we want to get bids from because we waited and we put together a list that's $4 million roughly of work. And it's $4 million because the cost of asphalt has gone up so much. So when we first started doing this, asphalt was like in the low 80s. Now it's like 120 something, so it's 50% more than it was when we got started doing these jobs. So paving is just, it's not cost prohibitive, but man, it's not easy to wrap your head around anymore. And we have so many roads yet to be dealt with, plus this is year 25 of Mirror Lake. So Mirror Lake streets are now rolling into this process for the first time. We haven't done any Mirror Lake streets since I've been here, I don't think. And we need to start doing some of them because the most heavily trafficked and or the ones that were the most poorly constructed are having issues, along with some of our streets, and there's no telling how old some of ours are, how long it's been since they've been refinished. So what we did was we put out the whole list of what we wanted to do, even though we knew we couldn't pay for it, because we knew we would get the big guys to bid. And the bid structure is unit cost, which means that they do a street and we keep up with the cost and they keep up with the cost, and they give, it generates an amount per street, and we just do street after street after street till we get to the end of our money and then we stop, right? So we don't have to do the whole bid amount. But what we're generating is 500,000 a year from each SPLOST, and then we get about 100, I don't know, 175, 180, 180,000, 85,000 a year in LMIG money. So you figure, you know, a little less than $1.2 million a year we're putting into this process. Well, then out of that money, we've got the sidewalk projects that we just did, Replantation, Berkeley, Connors, then the shaving project, right? So we cut the trees, and then we did the shaving. Then we had to go back and replace the sections that were so high that they couldn't be shaved. We've got the issue in the Coaches neighborhood where we milled, what, 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago and hit water, where we have to do full debt reclamation. That's going to be maybe $500,000 to fix that neighborhood. That needs to be done. It's got to come out of this money.
We hit what?
We hit water. The groundwater there is so high.
There's a spring or something there.
Yeah.
Up in that, like that cul-de-sac area that's all messed
right
up?
when you
No,
right
the
when you turn
dang
into
main road.
Yeah, the main road, but then
When
also
you come over the hill,
yeah,
we hit water right there.
yeah. Then
You know,
also
it's,
when you
it's just up the hill from the creek behind the sewer plant, but that, I mean, we've got springs like that all through town.
right.
The,
And then if you
the
pull into-
entrance to Carrington, I think there's one over near the Boy Scout hut. I mean, they're just all over the place.
And if you pull into Coach's cul-de-sac, Coach Best's cul-de-sac, I mean, it is just like
I knew that was
you
all
must just be
messed
driving
up.
on gravel. I mean, it's just bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. Anyway, so I mean, we could spend money. We could spend $10 million and not have to sit and think hard about a list. There's just that much to do. So we're just going to whack at this. You know, this is going to be like fighting kudzu, probably trying to ever get ahead of this. So what I'm asking you to approve is the low bid amount for the list that we published in the RFP, but we know we don't have that much money. So we're going to do as much as we can do. And maybe we'll get a couple of breaks and we overestimated some quantities and we'll get a little bit more, you know, than we thought we were going to get, but this is the best we can do right now.
Well,
There's a pretty good mix between Carroll and Douglas, and you can see, I mean, you know these roads. If you're not familiar with some of them, then ask, but I mean, you know, it's roads that you know, I think.
Is this the
People are
order
always
you're gonna do them
interested
in?
in, oh, sorry, hang on one second. People are always interested in which roads are going to be paved. So when we put this out there, I mean, we don't want to promise something we're not giving, but
Right.
people want to know, so we need to say,
We're not doing this whole list.
that needs to be clear, so
And-
people
and
won't
so-
get their hopes up and think they're road, because
Bobby did this, and so I don't know if the cover sheet and the priority list have anything to do with
That
each
was my
other.
question. Yeah.
I don't know. But
So can we get the priority list
oh yeah,
then?
I can
To
send
at
that
least
out.
publish that.
yeah, Councilman Carter.
Yeah, I can send that out.
Yep. I was asking the 1 through 16, is that the priority of the roads? That's not it.
It might be, but I don't know that. I
You're
don't
not
know
sure
that
what
I
the
didn't
priority
do
is?
it. Bobby did it.
And I've been here 24 years, and the Edge Road hasn't been paid in that period of time, so
Yeah, you're on there, finally.
I'm on here, but I'm number
Yeah, I
7. I'm
know.
just wondering,
I was out there
What
the
the
other
priority
day
is.
talking to people.
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll get it from Bobby. And I'll see him in the morning. I'll get it from him. And
Yeah, and the numbering is off,
Send
by
it
the
out.
way. There's 2 1s and no 8. So I know there's 16 on there, but I mean, I just didn't know. I mean,
One question that isn't particular, well, actually, I can look at 1 or 2 on here, whether they get done or not. The other concern that I know I get complaints on is in different wards, so y'all have to hear it. What are we going to do? Okay, if we can't pave a road, that's one thing, but it should not be a dangerous intersection. So I've gotten regular complaints on particular areas over off Daniel Road's one of them. There's somebody in here that could tell me exactly what that is, because you're only one of, I've had a number of people. Edge Road and
It's the intersection of Edge Road and Daniel, intersection of Berry and Daniel. Those two
Okay.
intersections are bad.
Okay, see, that's your ward, and that's, I'm trying to remember. I knew I saw them all, but I couldn't remember all of them more. We still need to do something about that intersection. I mean, if somebody comes through on a motorcycle, they're gonna lay their bike down, and it's bad enough for anything else going through there. If they're stopping, it's gravelly. It's just not, that's just not good for us to have
Tolbert and
unsafe
South
streets.
Carroll.
You know.
I mean, that Tolbert and South Carroll, the water pond's right there. It's like a, yeah. And then
So
the water
if-
just eats away. Whenever they do something, they just eat it away. I mean, it needs some drainage there. It needs some curb to flush it out.
So if we can keep that in mind, so we don't have, 5 more years that that's not addressed because the road didn't get paved, but maybe you've only got one area that's just a mess.
Right.
And if y'all will, be clear about what those are, you knew a few of the ones I was looking at. I knew that was out on Daniel, and just make sure staff knows it. And then, let me know if it's getting done or not. Because we need to take care of that.
Mayor, if I may, Tom.
Yes, sir.
So, two things. Going back to Coach's neighborhood, so that's not on the list, but it is on the list in some way, right? Like that, we're paying for it out of this, even though it's not on the list. And then the second one, so I mean that's going to happen in hopefully this year, right? All right. And then the second one is I guess we call it Temple Street here or Lower Main Street. I know there were issues with that, and that was supposed to have been done a year or two ago, and then there was some drainage or water issues there, and we had to redirect money, and then I think the Coach's neighborhood actually came in because we went over there, we lost money for this. I mean, what about this stuff? Is that going to be also resolved over here?
Are we talking I'm sorry,
In
Temple
front
and
of-
like
in front of
Chandler?
Cowboys.
Right.
Yeah, that's the design work that we gave John Bass. And so he's done the initial part of that. Now he's working on a way to put in some gutter drains to help with the problem that they have with water running right now into like their basement.
Mm-hmm.
So he's working on that, and then we put, I want to say we put $1 million in the budget is Jennifer here? 2 years ago? Was it last year? So, I mean, we potentially got a chance to actually get to that one as John gets to it and gets it designed.
So that could be a 2024 one, or
even this year.
Okay.
Well,
this
I mean,
is
the
20
money's there.
This is
20. That's okay.
2024, what did I say?
You said we could get.
Yeah, this year,
It's-
2024,
Yeah.
okay.
potentially.
It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I've adjusted to 2024 yet.
Just all moves too fast, that's all I know. Any other questions? Anybody opposed to making this consent? Okay, this will be consent item number 15. All right, Fuquay Road Amendment.
So we approved about I'm going to say 7.2 or 7.3 million for Fuquay to build his side of the road. It did not come all the way to Cleghorn because we had not designed that intersection. We went from whatever.
Roundabout or something.
Roundabout, four-way stop, traffic light. And so now that we've decided on the traffic light and we've designed it, we're now in a position where we don't have the ability to do the construction of the end of it, including the intersection, because we're not far enough along on our half of the road. And so we need Fuquay to pick up the last several hundred feet in the intersection, and we need to add that to his contract, which is $347,638.64, which is going to bring him to somewhere around 7.6 or 7.7 million out of 15. That will leave us 7.3 roughly for our part of the road. And we have done a complete design of our half of the road and estimated it, and it came in at 11 million. And so what we're in the process of doing now is going back and redesigning, modifying the design of our half of the road and taking out the median. So we're going to shrink the width of the road and hopefully eliminate the need to do some stream and wetland credit purchases by narrowing the creek crossing that we have to do with our part of the road to get down to that 7 million that we have in the TAD so that we can build our half the road. But that's sort of a different topic. I just wanted you to know that because we hadn't had a chance to talk about it since it came up. But right now what we need to do is modify Fuquay so that they can, when they pave, I want them to pave all the way through the intersection of Cleghorn.
How does that affect us financially? They're
Which-
doing what we were gonna build.
Well, what we're doing with them is they're building it, we're reimbursing them, and what we were going to do is we were going to build it and just pay for it. Now instead, they're going to build it and we're going to reimburse them, and then we don't have to build it. So we're just moving the last 300 feet or so from our design to their design.
Councilman Carter?
Okay, is the part that we're wanting to approve here, is it gonna be the same design as what's up at the project? Is it gonna carry that road design all the way down to Cleghorn?
Right.
Okay.
Except for we're taking out a
No,
median.
maybe.
Did I
No,
understand that?
that's on
correct?
our side.
Yeah,
On our side, yes.
Yeah, not on
Fuquay's
their
gonna do the
side.
whole-
We're not changing their design.
Their design's gonna be identical all the way down to Cleghorn, and that's when it shrinks after that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So there's going to be a median and et cetera, but
On
then
their
when you, on
side.
their side, and then we're going to
And their side is going to be very
make it to the
open.
finish line on our side.
If you think about what it looks like on their side, their road is running through a shopping center,
Mm-hmm.
right? Basically, so it's very open,
Right.
right? Like they clear cut the place. So the only tree that's going to be out there is going to be a new planted tree. When think about what our side's going to look like,
A logging road.
it's going through a jungle,
Right.
right?
Yeah, but
And
that'll
so
be fun, like
it
you're
will
kind of in
be.
the
I mean,
woods.
on both sides of the road, you're going to have really mature trees.
Shade.
So, and shade. And so if we do some really nice landscaping on the outside of the road that leads into that tree, I think our end of the road's going to be really attractive, just in a completely different way.
But we're going to, it's still going to have the paths, I think the cart paths.
Cart
or the-
path and the
all that's
walking
gonna be
trail
there.
on the-
Even though we're taking the median out, right? Okay.
Okay, good.
And this is the same exact thing that we did with the road from Cleghorn Anderson up to Old Stone, is we took the median out of that because we had 4 million. I think that one estimated at 5.5, and so we took the median out of it so that we could make that one make budget.
Wait, say again, which one was that?
The Anderson, the Old Stone Road through Node 3,
Mhm.
it originally had median,
Oh, okay, right,
you know, something on either side.
Yeah,
We took
okay.
that median out because it estimated too high.
okay. It's a
So
shame,
what
but-
we're finding, and this is, you know, part of my learning curve, is just because we want to do it doesn't mean we can do it. You know, it's just, and costs are crazy
That's what I was
compared to
gonna
when I.
say. It's just insane when you find out something's gonna cost that much more,
It's-
but
it's
that's
significant.
what we're living in right
When
now.
when I got here, the North Bypass was estimated at 11 million. That was in 17. And then it went to 13 million and 15 million. And in 22, when it went to bid, the estimate was 19 million and the low bid was 26.9.
And that gives
So
it,
it
that
went
gives
from
you
11
example
million
on every-
estimate
yeah.
when I got here to 27 million actual by the time it went to bid. And that's what we're dealing with.
That's why
over
with
and over
housing
and
and
over.
builders and everything else, everything's costing so much more and it's cost prohibitive for people too, but.
Yep.
Okay, are, anybody opposed to us making this consent agenda item number 16? Okay, that's 16. This one's a little more complicated. Well, it's gonna be a long meeting. Okay, so this is the stormwater utility proposal. This is pretty involved.
All right, so we have, evidently, it's before me, budgeted and attempted this, I want to say 3 other times. We have never created a stormwater utility here. David Mike can help me. Have we done it 3 times or 4 times? Do you know?
I don't know.
You don't remember. So anyway, that's what Jameson's telling me. We've tried this multiple times and never gotten off the ground. I've been in another city that tried it. This is an onerous process to go through, but the purpose of a stormwater utility is to generate revenue from the users of the system, which is everybody, because everybody's got impervious surface and is dealing with stormwater, so that we have the money to do projects like this thing out here in the front, right? Because we have a stormwater issue in the front of these buildings, and we have a stormwater issue behind us because we're not taking care of it up here. And it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to do even a small project, and it can easily cost 7 figures to do some of the things that need to be done. You remember that we redid the culvert under the driveway at Flowers back, what, year or 2 ago?
Yeah, we got a
Hundreds
grant.
of thousands.
We got a grant.
We got money from GDOT.
Yeah.
GDOT.
They give us a
pitched
grant.
in some money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, one driveway culvert. So the way that this would work, if you guys want to do this, is we would analyze all the commercial industrial space in the city and measure the impervious surface. So that's driveway and rooftop, basically, parking lot. And then we would count the houses, but not measure each of them individually. So we're going to treat all the houses equally, regardless of how big they are, how big their driveway is, whether it's concrete or, we're not going to get into all that. And then what we would do is calculate a rate that we would apply. When I was in Fairburn back, more than 10 years ago, I'm going to say that this, when we implemented this, the rate was like $3 and something per house per month. I want to say, I don't know what that would be today, maybe $4 and something is what I'm guessing this is going to generate. But with the number of houses we have in the commercial and industrial, that adds up to enough money that in a year you've generated enough money to go do a small project. And then you have that every year where you can go do that. We budgeted $150 for this. The low bid came in at $135. The panel is recommending that we use integrated. We have not used them here since probably my 2nd year. But if you remember, they're the company that we use to do all of those water source studies when we were looking at we looked at Mountain Zines Reservoir, Bowden's Reservoir. We looked at the Fairfield Reservoir. We looked at Mirror Lake. We looked at the Chattahoochee River. We looked at Legion Lake. We were looking at all those places. That's integrated is who did that work for us. I know them from having used them in Fairburn. They're really good. They're not local, but they're in Noonan, which is close enough for me. And all 3 of the guys on the panel recommended them. That was their top pick. So that was, I guess, Mark, Bobby, and Jameson did that panel work. So that's the recommendation, integrated at $135.
A question.
Yes, Councilman Carter.
Do you have a list of the projects that this money would be applied toward? They hadn't created that list yet?
No, because there's never been any money to do them.
Well, I mean, if we're going to gather the money.
Yeah, we are. So I've already reached out to Jameson and Brennan to work together to start doing a list because we're gonna have to prioritize it, and then it will take years. It'll be like paving. It's gonna take years and years and years to ever feel like we're making progress.
It's kind of like the north bypass. It'll take a little while, yeah.
Hopefully not that wild, but yeah.
Okay, so my concern is, I guess I see this as something government should be doing automatically with the money that's coming in, and not, in a sense, it's like another tax. Because, water, sewer, you use a certain amount, you get charged on the amount you use. And I guess you're trying to tie that according to footage and space, but I just have a problem with charging people for the water that falls. And the other thing I want us not to do is, okay, we got that money coming from the citizens. I know we did a big project over here that had to do with an LMIG grant, I think off of Candler, is that we not, if there's other ways to get that money, whether it's through certain grants, are we going to stop doing that when we've got the money coming in from citizens? And number two, what about what's been going on with the developers? And I don't have this down, but I'm hearing it from 3 or 4 different people that with these sites that we could be fining developers that are not doing what they're supposed to, and they're affecting our stormwater. I'm not just saying one person. I've had this from several, but I don't have the expertise to know, to go out there and know that developers getting cited, they are not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're affecting our stormwater, and that money could be applied, what people are doing. Kind of like when you think about the tickets, we have a fee on the tickets for IT stuff, don't we, Chief? Isn't it something like that, IT? There's some kind of little fee that helps upgrade
municipal
things.
court.
So, people doing something wrong or helping pay for some of the upgrades with that. I want to know if we've got businesses in town that are doing stuff wrong that should be paying a fee for what they're doing wrong, and they're impacting, they're costing, if they are, they're costing us because they're putting stuff in our stormwater that shouldn't go in there, and that's just one example. Now, I don't want us to not search for money. I mean, we don't have Chris here to do that, we're paying someone else, but if there's a way to get that LMIG money and look for other things that are out there, because we do have low-income areas, I don't want us to go to, let's get more money from citizens, if there's a way that there's money out there to be had, that we not bypass that. So that's just my take on it. This is a big deal, it's a big difference, but I don't know enough about it. I feel like I'd like to learn more. I mean, I don't want to rush it. My opinion. I don't want us to rush into it. I really would like to get as much information.
It's a long process.
Can we get, we have an upcoming retreat. Can we kick this around some more there too? And maybe have a few other people speak to it? I don't know if any of the, Jameson, Mark Teal, any of these people involved that could
That have done it, yep.
maybe give us, negatives, positives, and more to work with. That's just me. Anybody else? Questions, concerns?
Well, I guess, Tom, what you're asking for today is to study, I guess, and then come back with a proposal. So we're
Right.
paying these people to do this analysis, and then we say, well, if you do it, this is what it's going to cost the citizens,
Right.
this is what it costs the businesses.
All the public engagement, yep, all
Right.
that.
So, that's my, so are they going to first tell us what the result would be, and then if we decide to move forward with the utility fee, then they'll engage in the public engagement and so
Right.
forth?
Yeah, you don't do that if you're not gonna do it.
Right. So, I agree with the mayor. I think I wouldn't mind talking about this a little bit longer, but I also understand that what you're asking here is to hire a group that will inform us of what the pros and cons would be, right?
Yep.
Is that
So-
going to cost us $335,515? What am I-
135.
Oh, goodness gracious. Proposal design. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong, sorry. Let's switch over to this iPad. Okay, so over 100,000 to get them to tell,
To do the calculation.
would it be, at this point, would it be a big deal if we waited a month and learned some more at the retreat before we spend money?
That's up to y'all.
The retreat's only next week, so I don't have any concern about waiting or anything like that.
Yeah,
I
we
just-
can table it till March.
Okay, all right. Thank you. we'll need to do that tonight. Okay, approve a proposal to design sewer improvements along Connors Road. That's the one that's $335,515. Yeah.
Okay, so in some year, 2019 maybe or so, we went to EPD and we said to them, can we increase the capacity of the North Sewer Plant, which is at the Mirror Lake Dam? And they finally came back and they said, yeah, sure, but your discharge point is too small, which is just the creek coming out of Mirror Lake, right? Just a little dribble that gets out of the, through the dam, through the structure when the water's too high. We would have to pump all the way to Sweetwater Creek to get to a body of water that was big enough to handle an increase. And we said, gee, thanks, but no thanks. And so we started looking at ways to divert volume from the north plant to the west plant. Well, somewhere in there, we also started talking about this indirect potable reuse and taking our discharge from the west plant, putting it back in the Cowan Lake. Well, if that materializes, the more treatment we do at the west plant, the better. So we get a double benefit. And so the first project that we're going to work on is to completely replace the shoreline lift station, which is at the bridge. So right now it's in this house's backyard on the left when you're going to the bridge from Punkintown. We're going to move it across the street and rebuild it bigger so that it can handle everything from on the north side of the lake and send it to Cleghorn, which sends it to the west plant. The second project is this one. And so what this project would do is this would take a little rinky-dink lift station on some road. I don't even know the name of the road, but it's in the Ashley neighborhood across from the Tyson Road Fire Station. So it's over there near sort of where Charlie Davis lives. And we would redirect it. Instead of going to the north plant, we would rebuild it, get it out of where it is, because it's, I think, I'm not even going to say out loud the problem with where it is, but rebuild it bigger, somewhere where it's supposed to be. Build a force main down Connors Road to Cleghorn so that flow goes to the west plant. And that would take a lot of the volume of housing between Connors Road and 20, Connors Road and 78. Okay, so you got Hawthorne and Carrington and Connors Road Senior Village and Ashley Highlands and Ashley Place and then the new Connors land. You got all that in there, right? So we'd move that flow. Same double benefit. Takes it off the north plant so that we don't have to build a bigger north plant, build that long force main, and if we get IPR, we're putting more volume into Cowan Lake. So just to get started, and this will give you an idea how expensive this is. This is like a $3 million project. Just the design is $335,000 with the surveying and all the, construction administration. And so the two projects together are going to take all of our ARPA money. So you remember the ARPA money we got?
Years? Yeah, we got $6 million over 2
We
years.
got $6 million. And what we did $1 million for this, right? So $1 million of it we've budgeted, dedicated to this stormwater fix, right? So that leaves us with $5 million. So we've got $2 million to do shoreline, $3 million to do this. So it's going to use our ARPA money, but we'll get a double benefit out of it. So that's the recommendation, is that we get started on this, because if we don't, and we go through the full build-out of Mirror Lake that's in process, Northwoods, Fairway, Water Mist, and all that, we're going to have volume issues. Questions?
Yeah.
Councilman Carter?
With this, in conjunction with this, should not we be working on the redirection of the West Plant to Cowan Lake? Shouldn't that be a project included in here? I mean, if we're gonna redirect it to the West Plant, we're gonna overload the West Plant eventually.
All right, so let's talk about West Plant. So the West Plant is permitted at 2.1 million gallons per day. And up until recently, we weren't even treating 1 million gallons a day. So we've got 1 million gallons a day of capacity at least. But in addition to that, if you go back and you read the minutes from when y'all built the West Plant, what you'll find is that the minutes say that the design of the plant was such that it could easily, cheaply, be increased to 3 million gallons a day.
Yeah, I was involved in that, and they put a
Right, you remember
circulation
that,
tank
right?
in, yeah.
And that it had the footprint for 6 million gallons a day, which means that you got the land out there to basically double the basins, and you could theoretically put 6 million gallons a day through that plant. So I went back to staff and I said, okay, that's all well and good. What's easily and cheaply really mean in today's dollars? And we think that we could increase the West Plant from 2.1 million gallons a day to 3 million gallons a day for 750 grand.
Okay, my question is gonna be, if you do these things you're talking about doing, how much is it gonna increase the capacity of what's being used at the West Plant? How much is it gonna reduce?
It's
what we
going to
got?
take at least a couple of 100,000 gallons a day from the
Yep.
north plant
It's
to the
gonna add
west
that
plant.
much to the West
Yeah,
Plant.
100,000 on each side.
So that's a couple 100,000.
Yep. So, going back to your question, so the reason that we're not doing anything with Cowan Lake yet is we haven't gotten the permit from EPD to do indirect potable reuse. No,
We're in the first step.
we're
got
in
a
the first
sample for
year.
a
So the
year.
first step was we have to do a year's worth of sampling. And what we're sampling for in part are these chemicals called PFAS, which are chemicals that never break down, ever. They're like permanent. And they're used in no-stick pots and pans that surface. They're used in some carpet finishes that make carpet stain resistant. Anyway, so there's something sort of new that we're dealing with in this the timing of what we're doing. If we'd done this 5 years ago, it'd have been different, but now we're sort of on the beginning of trying to figure out if we have any of that. To my knowledge, from what I've seen in our samples and from looking at our industrial plant, we don't have any of that kind of use here. So I don't think, nor is the area immediately above Cowan and Paradise and Fashion industrial. That area is not like if you can picture the north side of Villa Rica going into Paulding County, it's residential and rural, right? You don't have manufacturing, anybody's up there making pots and pans or carpet, right? The carpet issue is in Dalton, and the recipient of that, I think, is Rome. So I think it's Rome that's in a lawsuit with some of the carpet guys over their water. So if you haven't read about that, you could go read about that. It's pretty interesting. But in our case, we've got to do a year's worth of sampling. We've got to get the permit, and then we've got to do a huge amount of work. We've got to dredge the 3 reservoirs to increase our capacity. I mean, it's just a lot to it. But that's the process we'll have to go through to get off of these water purchase contracts so that we can make enough water to 100% provide for ourselves.
Any other questions? I'm thinking, you don't have to explain all that again, but I'm reticent to put this on consent just because of the amount of money spent. It would be okay with me if it gets brought up
That's
and
fine.
voted on
We can talk about
separately.
it again tonight.
Okay, but I mean, you don't have to go all through that again.
Oh, come on.
But, people wait, if they know this is going out, this is why it's going out, and it's coming out of ARPA funds, then they don't miss that. Because when it gets all voted on together,
I got almost 2 asleep then.
Yeah, well.
So I'll gladly do it again and
Yeah,
see if I can go for 3.
There's a reason I used to get coffee delivered through a family member during our work sessions a number of times because they'd go so
I know.
long.
Some of this stuff's
So.
brutal.
Okay, well, this is heavy-duty topics. Okay, all right, so we won't put that on consent. We have 17 items on consent agenda. I'll go ahead.
I got 16.
Oh, wait.
I got 16.
Utility, oh, wait a second. I drew it ahead of time. I jumped the gun. Okay, 16.
We're talking about tabling 16 and 5. And then 6, we're talking about voting on the
Yeah.
night.
Okay, all right. All right, I'll go back and review. If anybody catches anything miss anything, just let me know. Okay, so consent item number 1 is the nomination of the District 4 officers. Consent number 2 is appointment of Ward 3 Planning and Zoning. Number 3 is the biometric screening under Human Services. Right under that, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are the mill lease agreement, 3 appointments to Main Street. That brings in number 7, and number 8 is the professional services for RCS Productions. Number 9 is the gateway and directional signage project. Number 10 is the dual-purpose police canine. Number 11 is the purchase of the UTV. Number 12 is purchase of the tilt trailer. Number 13 is the Pine Mountain Gold Museum train undercarriage rebuild. Number 14, the vendor for the city website. Number 15, the roadway paving project. And number 16, the Fuquay Road Amendment. Anybody got anything different? Okay. Y'all got to get all that switched, and I got to print it out and write notes on the new one. Pardon? You guys are good. Okay. At this point, I think we're going to be moving into executive session. David,
Unless there's some public comment.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's right, public comment. So this is a time for public comment, 3 minutes. Any name and address? Pardon? Okay, if you did not sign up, we still offer, there's only a couple y'all in here. Anybody for public comment? 3 minutes, name and address for the record.
Larry Kors, 115 Maple Valley Drive, Villa Rica, Georgia. On the comment on the street paving. If you're going to spend $3 million to pave, please go ahead of the contractor and fix all of your little problems in the road, like leaking water, problems with sewer, potholes, etc., etc., etc. Please don't pave and then come back, oh gosh, we missed this one. We've had it on the to-do list, but we kind of forgot it. Well, kind of forget that we don't need the patches back on a newly paved road. It's kind of an ugly little sin that you're not really ready. So let's be ready, let's plan ahead, then go ahead and do the paving. Thank you very much for the projects. A lot of the roads do need quite a bit of work. They're very much in need, and we thank you very, very much for this. And On the water, all I'm gonna say is thank you again and good luck. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else for public comment? Okay, I think we'll defer
Yeah.
to you, David.
I'd like to propose to the council that there be a motion to go into executive session pursuant to the attorney-client privilege and as provided by Georgia Code Section 50-14-2, parentheses 1. A meeting otherwise required to be open to be closed to the public in order to consult and meet with legal counsel pertaining to pending or potential litigation, settlement claims, administrative proceedings, or other judicial actions brought or to be brought by or against the agency or any officer or employee thereof.
Well, we can't vote, so we just apply that, huh?
Well, you can vote to go into executive session,
Okay,
yes.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Ms. Marchman? Councilman Marchman?